Su Hui shuddered violently. She spun around in panic, rooted to the spot, and hastened to defend herself. I didn't. I only saw her following behind you. I had no idea what she planned to do, nor did I wish harm on anyone. Fu Qingli leaned against the doorframe, her expression impassive. She spoke unhurriedly. Is that so? You sensed something was wrong, yet you chose to stand by and watch. Instead of checking on what had happened right after, you came to question me. Comrade Su, right and wrong are not for you to decide. Su Hui said, but Bai Tingting went out fine with you, and look what became of her. Fu Qingli retorted, she followed me with malicious intent, trying to push me into the river. She reaped what she sowed and fell in by herself. What does this have to do with me? Su Hui froze. She had only guessed that Bai Tingting intended to pick a fight with Fu Qingli, never imagining Bai Tingting would try to hurt her. Just then, educated youths in the front yard heard the commotion in the backyard and crowded around. Meng Hongbing glanced at Su Hui. What is going on? Nothing, Su Hui replied. She shot a glance at Fu Qingli and turned to leave. Meng Hongbing frowned at Fu Qingli, then followed the other educated youths away. A day passed and rumors began to spread through the village, claiming Fu Qingli had pushed Bai Tingting into the river. Some level-headed villagers rolled their eyes. That cannot be true. Comrade Fu received recognition from the county authorities. She would never do such a thing. When Bai Tingting heard these rumors, hatred flashed across her eyes. Since her own reputation was ruined, Fu Qingli should not get off easily either. Pale-faced, she made her way to the educated youth compound and faced the crowd. I cannot go on living. Why did Comrade Fu do this to me? I know she has always disliked me, yet I never thought she could be so cruel as to push me into the river. The educated youths grew indignant. What? Comrade Fu pushed you into the water. Bai Tingting's tears streamed down her cheeks. She ground out her words. Yes, it was her who pushed me into the river. Guo Chang and Wang Yi looked at the tear-stricken Bai Tingting. Remembering the half-steamed bun she had once given them, anger welled up inside them. Wait here. We will demand justice for you. With that, they stormed toward the backyard of the compound and banged fiercely on Fu Qingli's door. Fu Qingli stepped out of her room. She faced the enraged Guo Chang, Wang Yu, and the crowd of educated youths behind them with a cold gaze. What do you want? Guo Chang shouted accusingly, Fu Qingli, how could you be so vicious as to push Comrade Bai into the river? How dare you commit such an act? Fu Qingli met his stare calmly. Which of your own two eyes saw me push her? At that moment, Gao Nana helped Bai Tingting over. Hearing Fu Qingli's words, resentment surged in Bai Tingting's eyes. And she cried out loudly. I saw it. I saw it clearly with both my eyes. Is that not proof? It was you. You pushed me into the river. Guo Chang clenched his fists tightly. How malicious your heart is. We will report this to the Educated Youth Office and have them deal with you. Right after he finished speaking, the production brigade leader's voice boomed from the courtyard gate. I dare you to try. The brigade leader strode into the yard and swept a cold glance over the assembled educated youths. Then he called over his shoulder and pushed Huzi, Shirtu, Gooden, and Juzi forward. Come, tell everyone exactly what you witnessed by the river that day. Bai Tingting's heart sank. Could there have been other witnesses by the riverside that day? Huzi looked out over the crowd, pointed straight at Bai Tingting, and spoke loudly. She tried to push Sister Fu. Sister Fu dodged to the side, and she lost her balance and fell into the river all by herself. Bai Tingting shrieked, You are lying. Huzi flinched backward, frightened by her outburst. Then Shirtu spoke up. Huzi is not lying. I saw it too. You looked terrifying back then. Gooden quickly chimed in. That is right. Your eyes looked absolutely fierce. Juzi added, We were about to run for help, but before we could get anyone, Lizzie jumped in and pulled you out. Bai Tingting had never expected actual eyewitnesses. Still, she clung to hope. Even if several children had seen it, their words alone would not be enough to condemn her. Her eyes reddened, and tears rolled down her face. She looked at the children, putting on a hurt expression. I know you do not like me, but you cannot make things up. It is wrong for children to tell lies. Huzi flushed with frustration. You are the liar. Everything you say is untrue. Bai Tingting swayed slightly on her feet, looking frail and helpless. Very well. I know no one here is on my side. Believe whatever you wish. No one will stand up for me anyway. She took a few unsteady steps away before her body went limp and she collapsed. Gao Nana hurried to catch her. Seeing Bai Tingting's ashen face and tear-streaked features, the compound erupted in uproar. Meng Hongbing stepped forward to challenge them. Brigade leader, we cannot settle this matter based only on the children's accounts. I know most villagers favor Comrade Fu, but Comrade Bai must not be wronged. If this case is not handled fairly, I will go straight to the commune and report to the Educated Youth Office myself. The brigade leader let out a scoff. Is that a threat to me? You want to go to the Educated Youth Office? Go ahead if you must. But before that, I have already contacted the public security group. Comrades Liu and Ji have gone to examine the riverside scene. Pretending to be unconscious in Gao Nana's arms, Bai Tingting bit her lip hard. She told herself the riverbank ground was messy, so they would find no evidence. Meng Hongbing glanced toward Bai Tingting and caught the faint trembling of her eyelashes. He realized she was fainting on purpose. Presently, Lu Lin walked into the courtyard together with Ji Xiangdong. His eyes first fell on Fu Qingli. Seeing she was unharmed, he relaxed a little. Which of you is Comrade Bai Tingting? He asked the brigade leader. Bai Tingting's hands tightened involuntarily at hearing her name. The brigade leader jerked his chin toward the girl supported by Gao Nana. That is her. Lu Lin nodded and spoke in a clear voice. Based on our preliminary on-site investigation and the testimony of these young comrades. He turned toward Huzi and the other boys. Proud to be addressed as young comrades by public security officials, Huzi and the others puffed out their chests. Ji Xiangdong smiled faintly at their earnest enthusiasm. Lu Lin continued. Footprints and scratch marks along the riverbank confirm that someone attempted to shove another person from behind. The person in front dodged sideways in time, and the attacker lost their footing and tumbled into the river. Shock spread across the educated youth's faces as they all turned to stare at Bai Tingting. Only Su Hui hung her head, her mind in turmoil. Bai Tingting felt the world spin around her. How could this be? They had actually found physical proof. Fu Qingli looked over the crowd, her voice carrying clearly. You have all heard the findings. Next time you want to pick a fight with me, use your heads. Do not let yourselves be used as pawns. And if I hear any more rumors claiming I pushed Bai Tingting into the river, do not blame me for being hard-nosed. The brigade leader then said, All right, everyone disperse. He turned to Lu Lin and Ji Xiangdong. Thank you for your trouble, comrades. Come to the brigade office for a rest. Lu Lin and Ji Xiangdong declined. We still have other duties to attend to. They nodded briefly to Fu Qingli as a greeting, then mounted their bicycles and rode off. Meng Hongbing narrowed his eyes watching them leave. He had noticed that small nod. Just who exactly was Fu Qingli? The brigade leader shook his head. Go on, get back to your quarters. What sort of spectacle are you making crowding around Comrade Fu's door? The educated youths had no choice but to return to the front yard. Once everyone was gone, the brigade leader exchanged a few words with Fu Qingli and left. Fu Qingli walked to the base of the wall, picked up an armful of firewood to heat her kang. She had just lifted the wood and was about to go indoors when a soft, sugary voice reached her ears. Sister, I have finally found you. Her hand froze halfway to closing the door. She would recognize that voice anywhere. It was Fu Qingyao. She had not yet gone to settle scores with her, yet Fu Qingyao had come to her first. Memories of her two elder brothers' deaths in her dreams stirred, and killing intent welled up inside Fu Qingli so strongly the air around her seemed to turn cold. The departing brigade leader rubbed his arms. What is this? Why has it suddenly grown so chilly? I ran into this young woman asking for you on my way back, the brigade leader explained. I found out she is your younger sister and brought her over. Fu Qingli forced her murderous rage under control. She had planned to stay here for 1 year, then apply for home leave back to the capital. With her grandfather's standing, she ought to be able to secure work and settle there. Having obeyed the state order to go to the countryside, no one could find fault with her or target her grandfather. Once she was firmly established in the capital, she would find a chance to eliminate Fu Qingyao. Her grandfather would run into trouble 3 years from now, so she needed to remove Fu Qingyao beforehand. She had never expected Fu Qingyao to show up here, yet this presented her with an opportunity. Fu Qingli took a deep breath and slowly turned. She glanced first at the brigade leader, then at Fu Qingyao. Hatred flickered across Fu Qingyao's face the instant she laid eyes on Fu Qingli. The wretch had grown even more beautiful. She put on a bright smile and walked toward her. Sister, I have come to see you. Are you surprised and happy? Fu Qingli met her artificial smile with a cold tone. Happy or surprised? Do you truly think I would feel either? And do not call me sister. My mother gave birth only to me and my 2 elder brothers. You are no sister of mine, so do not try to claim kinship with me. The brigade leader's heart skipped a beat. Had he made a mistake bringing her here? Fu Qingyao said, Sister, I know you resent me. But feelings cannot be forced. Father and mother truly loved each other, and none of us could change that. Please try not to hate me. Truly loved each other? Fu Qingli retorted. So just like your mother, you enjoy inserting yourself into other people's marriages and stealing their partners? Fu Qingao bit her lip, seething inwardly. Once she got hold of the jade pendant, she would make Fu Qingli suffer terribly. She assumed a hurt, pitiful expression. Sister, how can you speak that way? The engagement between the Fu and Song families was never meant for one specific daughter. We are both Fu daughters, so it is only natural that Yang Ji chose me. Besides, Yang Ji and I are already married. Can you not let the past go? If you still have feelings for Yang Ji, I would even step aside, as long as you stop disliking me. Tears began to roll down her cheeks. Sweat beaded on the brigade leader's forehead. He now understood everything. This woman's mother had broken up Comrade Fu's parents' marriage. And she herself had snatched Fu Qingli's childhood fiancé. What a tangled mess. Some educated youths eavesdropping nearby inwardly cheered. Serves her right for her arrogance. Fu Qingli let out a mocking laugh. I want nothing you have laid claim to. The brigade leader's eyes went wide. Comrade Fu really held nothing back. Unmarried female, educated youths blushed deeply. The men sank into thoughtful silence. Hatred boiled beneath Fu Qingyao's mask, barely held in check. Then a voice spoke inside Fu Qingli's mind. Master, something is off about her. Be on your guard. Fu Qingli asked mentally. What is wrong? Her aura carries traces of a time-space passage. Fu Qingli's eyes narrowed. A time-space passage? What does that mean? Someone must have warped the passage, granting her rebirth. This grows interesting, Fu Qingli thought. Who could possess power enough to twist time-space? This is a Dharma-ending era. No person in this world ought to be capable of such a feat. Most likely, a rift opened in the time-space passage, causing her rebirth. Fu Qingli understood. That explained why events had unfolded so strangely. Killing her had once felt tedious, but dealing with a reborn enemy would prove far more satisfying. She turned to the awkward-looking brigade leader. Brigade leader, this is my stepsister. You will need to make arrangements for her. Understood, the brigade leader replied. Fu Qingao suppressed her fury and looked up, feigning delight. Sister, I knew you still cared for me. Fu Qingao smiled faintly. If Fu Qingao wanted to play games, she would play along. Without another word, Fu Qingli stepped inside and shut her door. Fu Qingao bit her lip at the closed door and turned to the brigade leader. Where am I to stay? There are beds in the female educated youth's dormitory in the front yard, if you do not mind sharing, the brigade leader told her. Fu Qingao frowned. She would not live among those uncouth country girls. Is there no other place? The brigade leader gestured toward the row of small independent rooms. There are these private rooms. 5 yuan per month. Even for less than a full month, you pay the full monthly rate. 5 yuan? That is exorbitant, Fu Qingao protested. The regular educated youths pay 1 yuan and 50 cents, but you are not one of them. Take it or leave it. The brigade leader turned to go. Fu Qingao gritted her teeth. I will take it. Good. Come with me to the brigade office for your key. And bear in mind, the brigade does not provide meals. You must source your own food. A flash of viciousness crossed Fu Qingyao's eyes, quickly masked by a smile. I understand. She followed him to collect her key. When she returned, she deliberately picked the room closest to Fu Qingli's dwelling. She pushed open the door and stared at the bare, empty space. It was utterly unfurnished. She told herself she would only be staying briefly and forced back her irritation. Still, the room was filthy and she had no idea where to begin cleaning. She walked over to Fu Qingli's door and knocked. Sister, could you help me? My room is in a terrible state. A cold single word came from inside. Go away. Fu Qingyao's jaw tightened. Once she obtained the jade pendant, she would make Fu Qingli pay dearly. After several deep breaths, she plastered on her amiable smile once more. She went to the front yard where the other educated youths were gathered. Hello everyone. I am Fu Qingyao, Comrade Fu Qingli's younger sister. I have come to visit her, though we have had our differences, and she refuses to keep me company. I have rented a private room in the backyard, yet I arrived with nothing, and the place needs thorough cleaning. I will pay 1 yuan to anyone willing to tidy it for me. She looked down in apparent embarrassment. I am new here and know no one else, so I must trouble you all. At the offer of 1 yuan, several people volunteered. Gao Nana and Tian Xiaomai were chosen to do the work. When the room was clean and orderly, Fu Qingao relaxed. Thank you both, she said, handing over the 1 yuan note. Gao Nana and Tian Xiaomai left happily with their payment. The moment they were gone, Fu Qingyao shut her door. Her pleasant expression vanished completely, leaving only dark rage. You wretch, just you wait. Early the next morning, Fu Qingli stepped out of her room to find Fu Qingyao waiting outside. Fu Qingyao hurried forward with a smile. Sister, do not be so overly familiar. We are hardly acquainted, Fu Qingli replied flatly and turned to walk up the hillside. Fu Qingyao watched her retreating figure, eyes narrowing. She glanced at Fu Qingli's door and noticed it had been left unlocked. Hope stirred in her heart. She glanced left and right to make sure no one was around, then slipped quickly into the room and began rummaging everywhere. Yet, she searched every corner of the house and found no trace of the jade pendant. Furious, she slammed her fist hard against the wall, only to cry out in pain. Ouch, that hurts like hell. Damn it. That jade pendant must be on her person. With that thought, Fu Qingyao hurried out of the room. Hidden in the shadows, Fu Qingli had witnessed everything. Her eyes darkened, and she quickly headed toward the back mountain, soon putting a great distance between herself and Fu Qingyao. Fu Qingyao searched the mountain for a while before catching sight of Fu Qingli's figure. She hurried after her. Sister, wait for me. Spotting Fu Qingyao closing in, Fu Qingli did not slow down. Instead, she quickened her pace. Watching the figure draw further away, Fu Qingyao muttered a vicious curse under her breath. Presently, Fu Qingli walked deep into the mountains. Fu Qingyao chased after her, gasping for breath. She only caught up once Fu Qingli came to a halt. Fu Qingli looked at her. What exactly do you want? Speak plainly. Fu Qingyao's eyes instantly turned red. She panted heavily for a moment, wiping sweat from her forehead. Sister, how can you say that? I truly care about you and came specially to see you. There are no outsiders here. Drop the act. Spare me your sickening performance, Fu Qingli said coldly. Fu Qingyao lowered her gaze, a flash of hatred flickering across her eyes. When she lifted her head again, her expression was weak and pitiful. Sister, how can you misunderstand me so? Only 3 days after my wedding, I rushed over, simply hoping to earn your forgiveness. I know full well that I have wronged you. That is why I have brought you my most precious possession, in the hope you will pardon me. As she spoke, she slipped a jade bracelet off her wrist. This was left to me by grandmother. I give it to you, begging for your forgiveness. Fu Qingli glanced at the ordinary, quality bracelet. This is your most treasured possession? Yes. It means more to me than anything else. A thought crossed Fu Qingli's mind. She wanted to see exactly what trick Fu Qingyao was planning to play. She reached out, took the bracelet, and turned it over in her hand. I shall take this bracelet. I forgive you. You may leave now. The moment Fu Qingli accepted it, contempt flickered deep in Fu Qingyao's eyes. Still here? Fu Qingli urged. Fu Qingyao spoke hastily. Sister, now that you have taken the bracelet and agreed to forgive me, could you give me one of your belongings in return? When I see it in the future, it will remind me that you have pardoned me. Fu Qingli sneered inwardly. At last the fox was showing its tail. What is it that you want? At the question, Fu Qingyao struggled to contain her excitement. Sister, I remember among the relics left to you by Auntie there is a jade pendant. Could you give that pendant to me? Fu Qingli hefted the bracelet in her hand and looked Fu Qingyao up and down. You certainly aim high. Do you take me for a fool? She then tossed the bracelet straight back at her. Take your things and get out of my sight. Filled with resentment, Fu Qingyao did not reach out to catch the flying bracelet. She demanded sharply, I have given you my most precious item. Why will you not give me the jade pendant? Your most precious item? A cheap trinket you could buy on any street, and you call it a treasure. Though I suppose given how poor your family once was, such a bracelet would have seemed quite something for you. If you and your mother had not attached yourselves to Fu Aigua, who knows what kind of hard life you would be leading now. You wretch! What did you say? Fu Qingyao flew into a rage. Fu Qingli raised her hand and slapped her. A crisp crack echoed through the woods. Watch your tongue. Fu Qingyao clutched her stinging cheek, utterly stunned. You actually dared to strike me? The deed is already done. Why ask whether I dared, fool? Fu Qingyao let out a bitter laugh. Sister, you are truly pitiable. You lost your mother at a young age. Your 2 elder brothers are away in the military and seldom return home. Father has always doted on me. Your being sent down to the countryside is all because of me. She giggled. Hand over the jade pendant obediently, and I will speak well of you to father. He will arrange for you to return to the city at an early date. Refuse, and you will be trapped here for the rest of your life. Does he have the right to decide how I live? Said Fu Qingli. Enough talk. Give me the jade pendant. I had intended to let you live a little longer. It seems that is no longer necessary. Fear jolted through Fu Qingyao. What do you mean by that? Precisely what it sounds like. Reading the undisguised killing intent in Fu Qingli's eyes, Fu Qingyao spun around and fled. Want to run? Too late. Fu Qingli summoned her fire, type supernatural power, and waved her hand. A cluster of flames coiled around Fu Qingyao's body. Watching the flames engulf her, Fu Qingyao was swallowed by overwhelming terror. Memories of her fiery death in her past life surged back. No! Help me! She flailed her arms, beating frantically at the flames, but they would not go out. Overwhelmed by panic, she paid no mind to where the fire had come from and begged Fu Qingli for mercy. Sister, save me. I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Please save me. No matter how she wept and pleaded, Fu Qingli stood quietly to one side, watching coldly and unmoved. Flames seared her skin, and excruciating pain spread across her body. Driven to desperation, Fu Qingyao began screaming insults. You wretch! May you suffer a terrible fate. You and your mother both deserve to die. It was far too lenient merely to push your mother into the river. I ought to have sent her far away to suffer endless hardship. Hearing those words, Fu Qingli flashed forward in an instant and stood right before Fu Qingyao. She planted her foot firmly on Fu Qingyao's chest. At her movement, the flames drew back of their own accord. Fu Qingli's gaze was ice cold. What do you mean by those words? Writhing in agony, Fu Qingyao burst into wild laughter. What do I mean? Ha ha! I am the one who pushed your mother into the river. I tricked her by pretending you were in my power. I told her to come alone if she wanted you safe, and she actually came. When she saw me, she was shocked. She even said a child like me ought not to be by the river and offered to walk me home. But when she reached for me, I shoved her straight into the water. I will never forget the look of shock and horror on her face. It brings me such delight to recall it. I watched her struggle in the river until she sank beneath the surface. Thinking back on that scene fills me with satisfaction. Ha ha. Until her last breath, she was calling out for you and your brothers. How ridiculous. The truth crashed over Fu Qingli. Her eyes reddened. She had never imagined her mother had not drowned by suicide, but had been murdered by Fu Qingyao. This woman was capable of such viciousness for personal gain. A thought struck her. Fu Qingyao had only been 9 years old back then. She could not have devised such a cunning plot on her own. There must have been someone behind her. The most likely culprit was Jiang Meihua, who stood to gain the most from her mother's death. Realizing this, boundless hatred roiled inside Fu Qingli. She looked down at the fallen Fu Qingyao. You hope to goad me into giving you a quick death? That will not happen. I intend to make you suffer. You were only 9 at the time. You could not have planned everything so meticulously. Someone was pulling your strings, and that someone is almost certainly Jiang Meihua. Fu Qingyao's pupils constricted violently. She shouted, You are lying. I killed your mother. My mother had nothing to do with this. You are losing your composure. So Jiang Meihua is indeed implicated. Rest assured, I shall send her to join you soon. But before that, I have a special gift for you. Then Fu Qingli called out, Kair. A flash of light, and Kair emerged from the spatial realm. Still dazed upon leaving the space, she sensed the fierce anger rolling off Fu Qingli and timidly tucked her head in. Master, what are your orders? Kair, summon the wild beasts of this mountain. Let them deal with her. Kair trembled all over. She was afraid of her master in this state. Understood. With that, she spread her wings and let out a sharp cry toward the sky. Fu Qingyao stared in stunned disbelief at the talking bird. Coupled with the fire that had appeared out of nowhere a moment before, icy dread ran down her spine. And she began shaking uncontrollably. No, this cannot be. How do you possess such uncanny powers? Hardly had she finished speaking when rumbling sounds echoed in the distance, and the ground trembled faintly. Dust billowed on the horizon, mixed with the roars and snarls of wild animals. Fu Qingyao swallowed hard, overcome with terror. Sister, I was wrong. Spare my life. Everything I said just now was spoken in rage. Please have mercy on me. Her abject plea stirred no compassion within Fu Qingli. Wolves, tigers, and a massive brown bear drew near and surrounded Fu Qingyao. Utterly broken by fright, she scrambled backward on hands and feet, forgetting all about the fire burning on her body. Human speed was no match for wild beasts. In the blink of an eye, a gray wolf lunged forward. Its sharp fangs sank deep into one of her legs, and the sickening crack of splintering bone rang out. No. Fu Qingyao's shrill wails echoed through the forest. A tiger pounced next, biting clean through her other arm as blood gushed forth. The huge bear swung its heavy paw, seized her burning leg, and tore it backward, ripping away large strips of flesh. Wolves closed in one after another, sinking their teeth into her waist, back and sides, tearing chunks of flesh free. Warm blood soaked the soil beneath her. Fire continued to lick at her tattered clothes and skin. The agony of burns blended with the lacerating pain of mauling. Fu Qingyao twisted and writhed, trying desperately to escape the encirclement, but there was nowhere to run. Deep wounds kept bleeding, and white bone showed through her mangled flesh. Her screams grew weaker from blood loss. Her vision blurred. All she could hear was the low growling of beasts and the grisly sounds of rending flesh. All her earlier arrogance and malice dissolved, leaving only bone, deep fear, and bitter resentment. Before long, her cries fell silent. Only the sounds of beasts feeding remained in the mountain woods. Fu Qingli stood some distance away, watching the scene without the slightest flicker of emotion. Had she not restrained the flames, Fu Qingao would have been reduced to ashes. Thinking of her loving mother, Fu Qingli pressed a hand to her aching chest. "Mother, I have avenged you. Rest in peace." Meanwhile, in the capital city, Jiang Meihua woke abruptly from her nap, gasping for breath. She kept seeing a dream in which her daughter was covered in blood, begging for help, and her heart throbbed with foreboding. She rose and went straight to the Song household. When Song Yang saw her arrive, he hurried forward. "Mother-in-law, what is wrong?" Jiang Meihua grabbed him by the arm. "Where is Yao Ao? Where is my daughter? Is Yao not home?" Song Yang asked. "Home? What home?" A flicker crossed Song Yang's eyes. 3 days earlier, he and Fu Qingao had quarreled violently, and he had stormed out. When he returned, she was gone. He had assumed she had gone back to the Fu family in a fit of temper and had not bothered searching for her. Reading his expression, Jiang Meihua's heart sank. "Speak. Where exactly is Yao Ao?" Song Yang's face grew stiff. "I do not know." "You do not know?" Jiang Meihua raised her voice sharply. "What does that mean? Did you two have a falling out?" "We did quarrel 3 days ago," he admitted. Anger flared in Jiang Meihua. "You have only been married 3 days. Why on earth would you fight? What else?" Song Yang frowned. "Yao Ao insisted on going to the countryside to visit Fu Qingli. That is what we argued about." The words gave Song Yang a terrible thought. Could she really have gone down to the countryside alone? "That cannot be," Jiang Meihua said instinctively. Yet he recalled how stubborn Fu Qingao had been. Unease welled up inside him, and he stood at once. "Mother-in-law, I shall go to the neighborhood office to check the travel permit records." He turned to leave. "Wait for me." Jiang Meihua hurried after him. The two rushed to the neighborhood office and checked the files. Sure enough, there was a record. 3 days prior, Fu Qingao had obtained a travel permit bound for Harbin in Heilongjiang province. Reading the entry, Jiang Meihua's legs nearly buckled. A powerful sense of misfortune washed over her. Images from her dream kept replaying in her mind, and her vision swam. Song Yang looked furious. What business could be so urgent that she had to go to the countryside in person? Jiang Meihua remembered how Fu Qingao had been talking about finding Fu Qingli back at the hospital. She had pressed her for answers, but Fu Qingao had always evaded the question. She seized the angry Song Yang's arm. "Go at once. Bring her back from the countryside. I fear something terrible has happened." Song Yang took a deep breath. "Even if I go looking, I must first arrange my work and inform my parents." "Very well. Go quickly. I shall head back now." He was genuinely worried for Fu Qingao. If something befell her, he would have no way to explain himself to the Fu family. He wasted no time and hurried off. Watching him go, Jiang Meihua remembered something else. She hurried home and picked up the telephone to call Fu Aigua. After several rings, Fu Aigua's steady voice came over the line. "Hello." Jiang Meihua spoke through tears. "Aigua, something is wrong." Fu Aigua knitted his brows. "What has happened?" Yao has gone down to the countryside to find Qingli." "What?" "That is utter recklessness." "When did she leave?" 3 days ago." Fu Aigua drew a sharp breath. "Wait there. I am coming home right away." He hung up. Jiang Meihua paced anxiously inside the house. Presently, Fu Aigua rushed back. Seeing her restlessness, he said gravely, "Tell me everything from the beginning." Jiang Meihua recounted the whole sequence of events. Fu Aigua frowned deeply and picked up the phone, dialing the Revolutionary Committee in Ha County, Heilongjiang. Director Zhang received the call. He thought Fu Aigua was calling to hear about Fu Qingli's capture of human traffickers and began singing her praises at length. Fu Aigua was surprised, then felt a surge of pride. He had not expected his daughter to be so capable. Jiang Meiwa caught the pleased look on his face, and a flicker of hatred flashed in her eyes. She gave him a gentle nudge. Coming back to the urgent matter of Fu Qingyao, Fu Aigua coughed lightly and cut Director Zhang off. Director Zhang, I need to ask a favor. My younger daughter Fu Qingyao has traveled to Ha County to visit her elder sister Fu Qingli at Kaoshan Production Brigade. Could you please check whether she has arrived? Director Zhang laughed heartily. Leave it to me. I shall make a call and find out. Thank you for your trouble. Do not mention it. Hanging up, Director Zhang immediately telephoned the brigade headquarters of Kaoshan Production Brigade. At that very moment, the brigade leader had just organized villagers to build barriers at the foot of the mountain. Terrifying roars, howls and growls had echoed from deep in the woods. Fearing wild beasts would come down and hurt people, he had hurried back to headquarters, intending to request support from the county security unit. The telephone rang. He picked up and heard it was Director Zhang from the County Revolutionary Committee, asking about Fu Qingyao's whereabouts. Yes, Fu Qingyao arrived yesterday. She is staying at the Educated Youth Dormitory. With that answer, Director Zhang called Fu Aigua back with the news. Relieved to hear Fu Qingyao had reached Kaoshan Production Brigade safely, Fu Aigua thanked him and ended the call. Jiang Meiwa stepped forward. What news? Yao has arrived in Heilongjiang and is staying at the Educated Youth Dormitory, Fu Aigua said. Jiang Meiwa stood abruptly. I must go to Heilongjiang myself and bring her home. Fu Aigua frowned but did not stop her. Shortly afterward, Jiang Meiwa and Song Yang wrapped up their affairs and boarded a train bound for Harbin, Heilongjiang. Back in the mountain forest, Fu Qingli looked over what remained of Fu Qingyao. She waved a hand and took a basin of diluted spiritual spring water out of her spatial realm. This is your reward. Kaier chirped. To Fu Qingli's surprise, the beasts formed an orderly queue and came forward one by one to drink. First the tiger, then the brown bear, followed by the wolves. Fu Qingli raised an eyebrow. She had not expected wild animals to understand queuing. Soon the basin was empty. She added more water until every beast had drunk their fill. She waved them off. Thank you. You may go now. Kaier chirped again. The animals fled as if pardoned. As they ran, they grumbled among themselves. Good heavens, what was that awful stench? Why did that two-legged being make us eat such disgusting stuff? We feel filthy. Still, the sweet, smelling spring water afterward made it somewhat bearable. None of them ever wanted to experience anything like that again. The beasts glanced at one another, putting aside their rivalries as they ran for their lives. They wondered what exactly the creature beside the human girl was. It filled them with an overwhelming sense of submission. They had dared not disobey its commands and had been forced to endure the unpleasant meal, even getting some of their fur singed by fire. Thinking of their scorched, ruined coats, some whimpered. We're no longer beautiful. Kaier let out peals of amused chirps upon hearing their complaints. Fu Qingli paid no mind to Kaier's odd noises. She set about cleaning up the scene, checking thoroughly to leave no clues behind, then descended the mountain. Kaier was returned to the spatial realm. When she reached the foot of the mountain, she saw villagers gripping sticks and farm tools, staring nervously toward the woods. The brigade leader, who had just finished his phone call, saw Fu Qingli coming down from the mountain. Cold sweat broke out on him. He hurried over and, seeing she was unharmed, let out a sigh of relief. Fu Jiqing, do not go up the mountain again today. There was a huge commotion of wild, animal roars up there. Something terrible may have happened. Fu Qingli's eyes flickered. I heard those roars, which is why I came down. Very well. Go on back and rest. On her way back, Fu Qingli happened to run into Lu Lin and Ji Dong, Xiang leading a group of men toward this direction. Spotting Fu Qingli, Lu Lin and Ji Dong, Xiang greeted her before hurrying toward the foot of the mountain. Passing by a small river on her way back to the Educated Youth compound, Fu Qingli checked to make sure no one was around. She then dropped a single drop of spiritual spring water into the river. Soon, large schools of fish swarmed over. Watching the approaching fish, Fu Qingli waved her hand and all of them vanished into her spatial storage. She gathered fish like this 3 times in a row before the schools gradually dispersed. Glancing at the abundant fish in the stream, Fu Qingli curled her lips into a smile. There would be enough for Kaier to eat for quite some time. Kaier stared at the fish in the stream and swallowed hard, yet it restrained itself and did not overindulge. Afterwards, Fu Qingli took 2 fish out of her space and headed for the educated youth compound. As she walked past the front yard, the educated youth caught sight of the fish in her hands, their eyes flickering. Bai Tingting had finally stepped out of the compound after 2 days of rest, and what she saw was Fu Qingli carrying 2 fish. At the sight of the fish, Bai Tingting's face twisted with resentment. Thinking about how she had fallen into the river and suffered harm to her reputation, and that she was forced to marry the local ruffian, she burned with the urge to tear Fu Qingli apart. Ignoring everyone's stares, Fu Qingli returned to the backyard. She cleaned the fish, heated oil in a pot, and cooked braised fish. The rich aroma drifted out, making the others swallow repeatedly. Some educated youth grabbed buckets and headed for the stream, hoping to get lucky and catch a fish or 2. Luck was on their side. They actually caught 2 fish by the river. Though smaller than Fu Qingli's, they were overjoyed. They carried their catch back excitedly. The rest of the youth grew thrilled and quickly got cabbage, potatoes, and vermicelli ready to stew alongside the fish. Hearing the cheers from the front yard, Fu Qingli raised an eyebrow. She had not expected them to get this windfall. That had been an oversight. She enjoyed her satisfying meal before entering her spatial storage. Staring at the growing stockpile of grain and vegetables inside her space, she stroked her chin. It seemed she needed to pay a visit to the black market. She was not short of money, but there was no sense in turning down easy profit. Having made up her mind, she told Kyer to grow crops without restraint, then climbed to the 3rd floor to study medical books. 1 month earlier, Eagle and Black Bear had rushed back to the capital city. They went straight to the special care ward in the capital hospital. Seeing the men standing guard at the door, both of them had tears welling in their eyes. Black Jiao, Xianbao, we're back. The boss can be saved. When Black Jiao and Xianbao saw Eagle and Black Bear, their faces lit up with excitement. Did you find the 100-year-old ginseng? Eagle and Black Bear nodded heavily. Too eager for small talk, they pushed open the ward door and stepped inside. Taoist Master Xianqing frowned at their abrupt entrance. Why are you being so reckless? Eagle spoke at once. Master, we found the 100-year-old ginseng. Please take a look. At those words, Taoist Master Xianqing said hurriedly, where is it? Show me quickly. Eagle pulled a wooden box from inside his coat. Master, here it is. Please have a look. Taoist Master Xianqing took the box and opened it. He froze in shock. Recovering, he snapped the lid shut. He fixed Eagle and Black Bear with a stern gaze. Where did you get this ginseng? Startled by his serious tone, Eagle and Black Bear told him the full story of their encounter with Fu Qingli. Taoist Master Xianqing asked, you mean this person drew near you without you noticing, and you never even got a clear look at their face? Eagle and Black Bear nodded. Taoist Master Xianqing fell deep in thought. Eagle and Black Bear must have run into a reclusive expert. This ginseng was clearly freshly unearthed, still carrying the scent of soil. Judging by its quality, it was at least 500 years old. Finding such a ginseng in the present season was next to impossible. He could tell its age because his Taoist temple had once owned a 500-year-old ginseng king. He had never laid eyes on one of higher grade. Something suddenly occurred to him. I was told there was also a pot of water. Bring it to me. Black Bear snapped to attention. Oh, right. He took the military canteen slung across his chest and handed it over. Taoist Master Xianqing uncapped the canteen and took a light sniff. Rich spiritual energy flooded his nostrils, and the weariness that had built up in his body melted away instantly. He stared at the canteen in disbelief. This substance. To test his suspicion, he poured a little water into a teacup and sipped it. Just that single sip nearly made him drop the cup in excitement. How can this water be so similar to the spiritual spring water passed down by our temple's ancestors? He remembered the temple's most treasured artifact, a modest-sized jade bottle. Years ago, when he had been gravely injured, he had drunk from it once. He would never forget that taste. He looked down at the military canteen in his hands, filled with doubt. Could this really be spiritual spring water? How could there be such a large quantity? He drained the rest of the water in the cup to be certain. Warmth spread through his whole body. Wherever the water flowed, old hidden wounds he had sustained over the years slowly healed. He was fully convinced this was not merely spiritual spring water. Its quality far surpassed the temple's sacred relic. He quickly screwed the cap tight and hugged the canteen to his chest. Stand guard here. I will return shortly. The next moment, Eagle and Black Bear watched Taoist Master Xuanqing's figure blur, and he vanished before their eyes. Outside the ward, Xian Bao and Black Jiao exchanged glances. Did someone just rush out? Inside the ward, Eagle and Black Bear stared toward the direction where Xianqing had disappeared and looked at each other. Could there be something wrong with that stuff? Black Bear scratched his head. It should be fine. Meanwhile, Taoist Master Xianqing left the hospital and returned to the courtyard house Lu Yichuan had bought for him. He went into his secret chamber, took out an alchemy furnace, and placed fire Ganoderma, snow lotus, and several other precious medicinal ingredients inside. He pulled the ginseng box from his robes, carefully cut off a small section of ginseng root, and securely stored the rest inside a jade case. Once everything was ready, he added some of the spiritual spring water into the furnace and began the alchemical refining process. A full day and night passed. A rich medicinal fragrance drifted through the air. Taoist Master Xianqing drew a deep breath. It was done. He slowly opened the furnace and stared at the pills inside, rubbing his eyes in disbelief. He counted them one by one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 pills in total. He gasped. Heavens! I never imagined I would live to refine 10 pills in one batch. He carefully placed the plump white pills into a jade vial. To test their potency, he scraped a little powder from one pill and placed it on his tongue. The instant the powder touched his throat, every trace of exhaustion left his body. He stared at the pill in his hand, murmuring to himself. The combination of spiritual spring water and 500-year-old ginseng is truly extraordinary. He shook his head. No. This ginseng may well be older than 500 years. That thought brought his mind back to the mysterious stranger Eagle and Black Bear had met. Who could that person be, to give away such priceless treasures so casually? It would be best to form an alliance if possible. Under no circumstances should they make an enemy of this individual. He looked at the pills in his hands. He had expected at most 3 to 5 pills per refining session, yet he had produced 10. The remaining ginseng and spiritual spring water could become sacred treasures for the temple, passed down for generations. The thought made him swallow hard. Disciple, it is not that your master is greedy. These treasures are simply too tempting. Besides, you already drank the original spiritual spring water from our temple. Though it was of lower quality, it still saved your life, did it not? Taoist Master Xianqing kept reassuring himself until he felt at peace storing away the ginseng and spring water. Seeing the plain military canteen holding the spring water, he frowned in distaste. He rummaged through the secret chamber and found a larger porcelain bottle. He carefully poured the spiritual spring water into it until the bottle was full, with some water still left in the canteen. He pondered for a moment. I will leave what remains for that young man. Give him a little each day, and hopefully he will wake soon. With that, he took the pills and headed for the hospital. A month slipped by. Lu Yichuan finally regained consciousness. When his eyes adjusted to his surroundings, he clutched his chest in agony. Memories flooded back. Lear, I am sorry. I was powerless. After reincarnation, I failed to recognize you. Wait for me. In this life, I will not let anyone harm you. Back with Fu Qingli, she stepped out of her spatial storage and unconsciously pressed a hand to her chest. A strange dull discomfort washed over her. Yet it faded quickly, so she paid it no mind. Lu Lin and Ji Dong, Xiang had spent the whole night in the back mountain and found no unusual activity. Still, seeing the production brigade leader and the anxious villagers, they sent men to search the mountain. The search party found numerous animal tracks deep in the mountains, but no signs that the animals had come down toward the village. Relieved, the men hurried back down and reported their findings to Lu Lin. Lu Lin relayed the news to the brigade leader and led his troops away. Even after Lu Lin's departure, the brigade leader remained uneasy. He assigned people to keep watch before dismissing the villagers. Everyone had stayed up all night and was exhausted, so he granted them a day of rest. Hearing about the holiday, Fu Qingli greeted the brigade leader and set off for the county seat. Once in town, she first ate at the state-run restaurant. Then she disguised herself and slipped into the black market. She asked about grain prices. The grain grown in her spatial storage was far too valuable to sell at ordinary black market rates. Since she was already there, she decided to dispose of supplies stockpiled by the past life Fu Qingyao. Ever since she could grow grain and vegetables in her space, she had left those old supplies untouched. She found a quiet corner, set down a pre-prepared basket and covered it with a coarse cloth. Shortly after she set it down, a young man approached. He glanced warily left and right and whispered, "Ma'am, what are you selling?" Fu Qingli lowered her voice. "Rice, wheat flour, pork, processed chicken, eggs. What are you looking for?" At the mention of scarce fine grains, the young man grew eager. "May I see the goods?" "Certainly." The young man carefully lifted the cloth covering the basket. His eyes lit up at the sight of the rice and flour. "I will take 10 jin of each, 5 jin of pork, 2 chickens, and 20 eggs." Fu Qingli said, "That can be arranged." Rice is 40 cents a jin, wheat flour 50 cents a jin, pork $1.50 a jin. Chickens $2 each, eggs 10 cents apiece. The young man agreed at once. "That works for me." Fu Qingli quickly tallied the total. 10 jin rice for $4, 10 jin wheat flour for $5, 5 jin pork for $7.50. 2 chickens for $4, 20 eggs for $2. Altogether $20.50. The young man pulled out the money and handed it over. Fu Qingli counted it to confirm the amount was correct before giving him the goods. He quickly transferred everything into his own basket, checked that nobody was watching, and hurried off. More customers came one after another. She kept busy the whole morning and sold nearly half of the grain Fu Qingao had hoarded in her previous life. To avoid drawing suspicion, she carried her basket in and out 4 or 5 times, pretending to fetch more stock. A single basket could only hold so much. An endless stream of goods would attract unwanted attention. Her actions inevitably caught the notice of the people running the black market behind the scenes. Fu Qingli glanced up at the sky and checked the time. It was already noon. She packed up, intending to eat at the state-run restaurant. Selling in this manner was tiring, so she decided not to continue trading on the black market floor and prepared to leave. As she reached the exit, 2 young men stepped forward and blocked her path. "Ma'am, hold on. Our boss would like a word with you." Fu Qingli looked calmly at the 2 men. She understood these must be the black market operators. Unfazed, she nodded and followed them. They led her to a secluded private courtyard about 20 meters away from the black market. Fu Qingli studied the place in her mind. Clever to hide in plain sight. Whoever ran this operation was no ordinary person. One of the men knocked on the gate. It swung open and a middle-aged man stepped out, gesturing for her to enter. "Ma'am, please come inside." Fu Qingli stepped through the gate and discovered it was a 2-section courtyard, far more spacious than it appeared from outside. They ushered her into the main hall. When the door opened, a man in his 30s sat within. Dressed in a short coat, he appeared relaxed, yet his gaze was sharp. He sized Fu Qingli up silently the moment she walked in. Seeing Fu Qingli in her disguise as an older woman, he skipped unnecessary pleasantries and got straight to the point. "Ma'am, my surname is Liu. People around here call me Third Master. I have been observing you all morning. Your supply is abundant and of excellent quality. Would you be interested in long-term cooperation with me?" Fu Qingli sat down calmly in the seat below him. "Tell me your proposal." Third Master raised an eyebrow, inwardly surprised. Most ordinary vendors who met him grew nervous, either trying to curry favor or showing fear. This woman, surrounded by his men in an unfamiliar courtyard, remained completely composed. Her self-possession was remarkable. He tapped his fingers against the table and spoke cautiously. "Your goods are good, yet selling on your own carries great risk. Partner with me. You only need to supply the goods. I will handle sales channels and safety. You will no longer need to show your face in the black market or worry about patrols." Fu Qingli's eyes flickered. "Co-operation. What split are you offering, and why should I trust you?" Third Master's eyes showed faint admiration, and a slight smile played on his lips. "You are a sensible woman." He leaned forward, dropping his casual demeanor, and spoke earnestly. "If your goods are a one-time lot, I can buy this batch from you based on the profit margin. But if you have consistent stock, we can form a formal partnership. You supply, I manage manpower and avoid crack-downs. After goods sell, we split 60-40, 60% for you, 40 for me." Fu Qingli remained unruffled. 60 for me, 40 for you. That sounds reasonable. But what if you sell my goods and refuse to pay me afterwards? Where would I find you? Your concern is completely justified, Third Master replied steadily. We can settle payment on delivery. Every time you bring goods, we count them and pay you in full right away. I will not delay payments, and you bear none of the selling risks. Furthermore, if authorities start cracking down in the city, I will send word to you ahead of time so you do not run into inspectors. Fu Qingli thought for a moment without answering immediately. She still had roughly 700 jin of rice, over 300 jin of wheat flour, and more than 400 jin of cornmeal left. As for pork and eggs, she intended to keep them for herself. What remained of her spatial, grown grain was too valuable to sell normally. She said, "We can try working together. First you buy this existing batch at the agreed margin. For future stock, I will set new prices. Those goods are vastly superior to this batch. A 60-40 split would leave me at a loss." Third Master tapped the table with his fingers. "Vastly superior? I would like to see that." Fu Qingli said, "There is no hurry. Let us finish dealing with this current stock before discussing further collaboration." Third Master did not press the issue. "Fair enough. How much can you provide right now?" 700 jin rice, 350 jin wheat flour, 400 jin cornmeal. Disappointment crossed Third Master's face. "That is all? That would not even satisfy one day's sales. Perhaps I misjudged her. This woman may not be as well connected as I thought." Fu Qingli said, "That is all I have of this grain for now. But I have other items I believe you will be interested in." Third Master perked up. "What else?" 10 Shanghai brand wristwatches, 2 black and white televisions, 5 sewing machines, 5 bicycles, 3 double-eared iron woks, 5 kitchen knives, 5 sets of spatulas, 5 kerosene lamps. Also 2 large 40 jin barrels of kerosene, plus 2 smaller 10 jin barrels. Cigarettes. 5 cartons of double happiness, 5 cartons of de Qianmen, 5 cartons of peony, 5 cartons of phoenix. There is also a wide selection of daily necessities, enamel basins, towels, mirrors, wooden combs, thermoses, and seasonal clothing, trousers and socks. She planned to keep liquor such as mitai for herself. It would become extremely valuable in the years ahead. Paper products and hygiene goods were also reserved for her own use and not for sale. Third Master was utterly stunned by the long list. Wristwatches, televisions, sewing machines, bicycles, these were highly sought after big-ticket items that were hard to obtain even with official industrial coupons. They would sell out instantly on the black market. Yet this woman could produce so many at once. His whole attitude toward Fu Qingli shifted. Shock gave way to deep wariness. Anyone capable of sourcing such scarce goods must have extraordinary backing. This person was to be befriended, never antagonized. Third Master took a deep breath. "Since you can provide such fine goods, I will purchase this grain at market price. For the other items, we will set prices once I see them. Does that suit you?" Fu Qingli nodded. "Fine. You pick the place for the transaction." Third Master considered briefly. "There is an empty house 50 meters from here. We can complete the deal there if you are agreeable." "That works. 9 o'clock tonight. I will clear the location ahead of time, rest assured." "Very well." Once their arrangements were set, Fu Qingli turned and left. One of Third Master's subordinates watched her retreating figure and leaned in to speak. "Boss, what should we do when we meet for the night transaction?" Third Master Lu shot a cold glance at Gosheng. "Drop your petty schemes if you want to live. This person is not someone you can afford to provoke." Faced with Third Master Lu's gloomy expression, Gosheng broke out in cold sweat and did not dare utter another word. Then Third Master Lu cast a frigid look at his men. "Remember, treat this person with nothing but courtesy. Do not offend them in any way." Everyone nodded hastily. "Yes, sir." Meanwhile, Fu Qingli had already left, unaware that her unintentional act had saved her from a great deal of trouble. After walking out of the small courtyard, Fu Qingli found a secluded spot and entered her spatial dimension. She removed her disguise and headed for the state-run restaurant. At the restaurant, she ordered shredded stir, fried potatoes, braised fish, tofu soup, and 2 liang of rice. After enjoying a hearty meal, she placed take-out orders: 5 portions of braised pork, 5 portions of fried pork slices with sauce, 5 portions of gobera, and 20 meat, stuffed buns. Leaving the state-run restaurant, Fu Qingli went straight to the post office to check for parcels addressed to her for the month. When Fu Qingli gave her name, the postman fetched a large parcel from the back room. After verifying her identity, he handed it over to her. Fu Qingli thanked the postman and stepped outside the post office. She wound through side streets until she found another deserted spot. She stored the parcel inside her spatial dimension and went in herself. She carried the parcel to the bamboo building and opened it. Inside were 1 sack of rice and 1 sack of wheat flour. Fu Qingli sighed. She had clearly written to her grandfather telling him not to send grain. She had reliable channels to get food and would not go hungry. To prove her point, she had mailed 10 jin each of rice and milled flour grown inside her space. She had not sent more for fear of worrying him. Yet it seemed her grandfather had not believed her and had mailed those same 10 jin of grain right back. He was so terribly afraid she would starve. Fortunately, the meat paste she had sent him had not come back. She had added plenty of spiritual spring water to extend its shelf life. She had wanted to send supplies to her 2 elder brothers as well. Unfortunately, she did not know their exact division, regiment, or battalion details. All she knew was that both were battalion commanders in field army units, serving in different regiments. Army mail required special P.O. box numbers, which she did not possess, so she could not send them anything. Fu Qingli turned to the remaining contents of the parcel: 2 tins of malted milk extract, 2 bags of milk powder, 1 bag of white rabbit creamy candy, 1 sack of brown sugar, 2 tins of luncheon meat, 2 tinned fruit cans, assorted nuts, premium special, supply fruits, and an envelope. She tore open the envelope to find a letter and 5 large 10-yuan banknotes. She set the money aside and unfolded the letter paper. The letter described her grandfather's experience drinking ginseng, infused liquor. He wrote that the ginseng must be extremely old. Lately, his hair had gradually turned black again, chronic old ailments had healed, and old acquaintances kept commenting on how much younger he looked. When his old friends noticed the change, they pressed him to reveal what precious tonic he was taking. He had casually told them it was ginseng wine brewed by his precious granddaughter. At first no one believed him, so he generously gave each man a cup to try. Unexpectedly, every man slept soundly that very night after drinking it. Their lingering old injuries also ached far less. From then on, they invented every excuse imaginable to sneak sips of his wine. He was at his wits' end, constantly racking his brain for new hiding spots for the liquor. Reading this, Fu Qingli pictured her grandfather outwitting those old friends over the wine, sneaking about to hide his bottles. The image made her smile. She sorted and put everything away, then climbed up to the 3rd floor of the bamboo building. Over in the capital city, old Master Fu stared at his last remaining jar of meat paste, half amused and half exasperated. He spoke to his orderly beside him. "Just look at these old rascals. I never knew they had such thick skins, coming over to steal my meat paste." The orderly stared straight ahead, keeping his thoughts to himself. It served the senior right for showing off. Now his things had been pilfered, and he could hardly demand them back. Meanwhile, the men who had taken the meat paste were in high spirits. "Zhao Guoxing," one man said, "Old Fu is far too stingy. It is only a few jars of meat paste. Why must he hide them away? Still, that girl's cooking is incomparably delicious. Since tasting her meat paste, ordinary meals taste bland. Mark my words, next time Old Fu receives more tasty goods, we absolutely must get our hands on some." Lu Xingli shot him a disapproving glance. "Watch your tongue, Zhao Guoxing. If Old Fu flies into a rage, we will be in serious trouble." Zhao Guoxing rolled his eyes. "Relax. We fought side by side with him. Back then several of us shared one corn bun. He will not stay angry over something trivial. Am I right, Gu Hongjun?" Gu Hongjun held the jar of meat paste and glared at both men. He had never stolen anything in his life, yet these two had talked him into sneaking goods from the senior's residence. His dignity was in tatters. There would be no repeat of this foolish escapade. He shot them another sharp look and quickened his pace, walking off. Lu Xingli and Zhao Guoxing exchanged eye rolls. So he was the virtuous one. Huffing, they headed home happily with their jars of meat paste. In a hospital in the capital, Daoist Xuanqing's eyes reddened the instant he saw Lu Yichuan regain consciousness. Good, good. It is a blessing you are awake." Lu Yichuan looked at his master, who appeared to be a handsome middle-aged man in his 30s to outsiders. Only Lu Yichuan knew the Daoist was already 60. His master could have enjoyed a peaceful long life and easily lived to be 100. It was all his fault. In his previous life, he had woken up 7 years later. After regaining consciousness, he had learned what had become of the Fu family and that Lear had been sent down to the countryside. He had dispatched men to search for her, only to find her lonely, lifeless body beneath an overpass. The world had crumbled for him. He hated himself for falling into that coma. He hated burying his love for Lear out of concern for their age gap. He would never forget the little girl who used to trail behind him begging for candy. He should never have hidden his feelings merely because there was a 7-year difference between them, only to drown in regret after her death. Driven to desperation, he had returned to Xianqing Temple and retrieved a forbidden text. Inside it, he discovered a ritual that could reshape time. The ritual required the souls of one's enemies, the blood of one's close kin, and the heart of one's beloved. He had set out to kill Fu Qingyao and her whole family, then Fu Aigua, the source of all misfortune. But he arrived too late. Fu Qingyao and her relatives were already dead, killed brutally. Seeing their corpses, he thought fate favored him. He rushed to the home of Fu Aigua and Jiang Meihua, only to find them also slain. Guards told him Fu Qingchen and Fu Qingse had murdered their parents before taking their own lives. Everything was ready. The final component was himself. Unobserved, he collected blood from Fu Aigua, Fu Qingchen and Fu Qingse and returned to the temple. On the temple altar stood a completed ritual formation. Complex twisted ancient runes were carved across the blue stone platform. 8 hollow formation eye sockets glowed with eerie cold light. He stood at the formation center and chanted obscure soul, binding incantations, forming hand seals. Black mist churned in the air as he forcibly dragged the souls of Fu Qingyao's kin into being. Filled with resentment, the spirits shrieked and struggled, yet the spell held them fast and pressed them into the formation sockets. He poured the collected blood of the Fu family members into each socket. Crimson liquid flowed along the carved grooves, igniting the faded runes. Coldine energy rose thickly from the array. Then he fully activated the ritual. He drove a dagger into his own chest and tore out his heart, placing it in the central main socket. As an ability user, he did not die instantly from having his heart removed. Watching Gale's tear across the altar, he smiled faintly. "Lear, wait for me." His life ebbed away fast. He had expected to open his eyes in the past. Instead, his spirit floated free. Time had not rewound. The ritual had failed. Still, he thought, at least he could join Lear in death. Then he witnessed his master rushing to the altar. He saw Taoist Xianqing overcome with grief at the sight of his corpse. His master roared toward the heavens. Why can you not grant them happiness? Why tear them apart? Are you so afraid of their return? You despicable beings. If you insist on keeping them apart, I will defy you and bring them together. As the words faded, lightning split the sky and struck Taoist Xianqing. Blood burst from his mouth. He staggered, nearly collapsing. Lu Yichuan's spirit threw himself forward, hoping to shield his master from further lightning, yet he passed straight through his body. He gave a bitter ghostly laugh. He was dead, a spirit now. He could offer no protection. He watched his master laugh aloud. Are you afraid? The Taoist pulled out a dagger, sliced open his palm, and pressed his bleeding hand onto the ritual formation. Temporal regression activate. Vitality drained from him at once. His hair turned snow white. Master, stop. Do not do this. It is not worth it for me. Lu Yichuan's spirit screamed. Yet Taoist Xianqing laughed. My apprentice, do not disappoint me. He waved a hand toward Lu Yichuan. So his master had been able to see his spirit all along. Of course he could, he was the temple master. He must have seen Lu Yichuan try to shield him from lightning, yet had chosen to ignore it. Time began to flow backward. Thunder and lightning poured down from above. Everything went black. Lu Yichuan's soul arrived in a parallel world 60 years in the future, where all memories of his original life were erased. He and Lear had grown up within a special organization, both becoming elite state operatives. She captained the Phoenix team, he captained the Dragon team. At first, they clashed constantly, neither willing to yield to the other. As time passed, he fell in love with her. Before he could confess his feelings, Lear met a fatal accident. Gazing upon her dead body, a splitting headache unlocked all his memories of his former life. Shattered by grief, he finished handling her funeral affairs, then sailed out to sea. He fought sea monsters for 3 days and 3 nights before triggering self-destruction and perishing alongside them. He had expected total annihilation. Instead, he was pulled back to his original lifetime. Back in the hospital ward, Taoist Xianqing stared at Lu Yichuan's tear-stricken, blank-faced expression, alarmed that the coma might have left lasting damage. He waved a hand in front of his apprentice's eyes. Boy, speak to me. Do not frighten me. Lu Yichuan snapped back to the present. I am fine, master. I have fully recovered. He still could not understand what his master had meant by shouting about their return, yet he trusted answers would come in time. Thank heavens you are well. The ward door flew open. Lu Zhong stood in the doorway, utterly stunned to see his son sitting upright with healthy color in his cheeks. You reckless boy, Lu Jin roared. Do you realize what I went through while you lay comatose for months? Tears glistened in his eyes. What would I tell your mother if something had happened to you? You were our late-born child. Do you know how much pain your mother endured bringing you into this world? Her greatest worry as she passed away was for you. Seeing his father's tear-filled eyes, Louis Chuan coughed awkwardly. I have woken up, so there is no need for alarm. Even if the worst had come to pass, you still have my 2 elder brothers. Enraged by those words, Lu Zheng grabbed a nearby wooden stool, ready to strike him. You fool, what nonsense are you spouting? Daoist Xianqing snatched the stool away. Old Lu, you cannot beat my prized apprentice. Would you compensate me if you injure him? Only then did Lu Zheng notice the Daoist. He cleared his throat, embarrassed. Daoist Xianqing, when did you arrive? Had he really not noticed such a prominent figure standing in the room? Daoist Xianqing rolled his eyes. I have been here since my apprentice slipped into a coma. Have you truly not noticed all these months? Lu Zheng scratched his nose. He had been told the Daoist had come, yet he had paid it little mind. He had not expected the priest to actually bring his son back from the brink. Louis Chuan watched the two bicker and felt helpless. He wondered how his father had grieved when he died in his previous life. Presumably, he would have moved on quickly, with 2 other sons and several grandchildren to comfort him. He called toward the doorway. Kanjing Heixiong, complete my discharge paperwork. I am leaving hospital. Discharge. Lu Zheng objected. You have only just woken. You ought to stay under observation longer. I am perfectly all right. Important official work piled up during my coma. I must return and deal with it. Privately, he knew he needed to clear his official duties quickly so he could travel to the countryside and find Lear. This lifetime, no one would harm her. Lu Zheng looked questioningly toward Daoist Xianqing. The Daoist shrugged. Rest easy. His body is stronger than an ox. Discharge is perfectly safe. He thought to himself, those portions of spiritual spring water were hardly drunk for nothing. Reassured, Lu Zheng nodded. Very well. I shall have people gather your belongings and consult doctors about post-discharge precautions. He left the ward. Paperwork was processed, and Louis Chuan left the hospital. He threw himself into working overtime, clearing his backlog of official business. Elsewhere, Fu Qingli set down her medical book and checked the time. It was nearly 9 o'clock. She went downstairs, grabbed one meat-stuffed bun for a quick bite, and exited her spatial dimension. She arrived at the prearranged meeting spot. She extended her mental senses and detected no one lurking nearby. She pushed open the gate and brought all her stored goods out of her spatial dimension. She kept 1 bicycle for her own use and set 4 aside for the trade. Presently, the courtyard gate swung open. Third Master Lu arrived with his men. He surveyed the goods spread across the yard and nodded in approval. I am keeping 1 bicycle for myself, Fu Qingli told him. You get 4. Agreed, Third Master Lu replied. Goshing led the men through checking every item. Once the stock had been fully counted, Goshing gave Third Master Lu a confirming nod. The goods are all in order, Third Master Lu said. He began counting cash. Ma'am, here is 6,350 yuan. Please count it. Fu Qingli took the money. No need. She rummaged in her wicker basket and pulled out 5 jin of rice and 5 jin of wheat flour. Take these home first to sample. We will negotiate pricing later. This grain is far superior to the stock we just traded. Third Master Lu accepted the sacks. As he untied the openings, rich grain fragrance drifted out. He could almost feel his persistent fatigue easing just breathing in the aroma. If this grain lives up to your description, we will set a new price, he said. But where can I find you when we wish to trade again? Fu Qingli had not thought this far ahead. If you want to do business 3 days from now, tie a red ribbon to a tree inside this courtyard. When I spot it, I will come to you. Understood. Fu Qingli turned and departed. Third Master Lu ordered his men to load everything up and return to their base. As soon as he got back, he instructed his subordinates to cook some of the new rice for him to taste. Soon the courtyard filled with a mouth-watering aroma. The men swallowed hard. How can rice smell this good? Drawn by the scent, Third Master Lu walked out of his room and headed for the kitchen. He found his men crowding around the cooking pot, swallowing repeatedly. He coughed sharply. The men quickly restrained themselves, resisting the urge to sneak a bite. When the lid was lifted, the fragrance grew even stronger. Seeing their greedy faces, Third Master Lu tapped each man lightly on the head. Do not let your saliva drip into the pot. Using a cloth to protect his hands, he lifted the basin of cooked rice and carried it straight into his own quarters. The men stared in astonishment. Had their boss not intended to share at all? Stop daydreaming, Goshing said to Urguzi. Bring the side dishes over. Right, on my way. Urguzi carried the prepared dishes into Third Master Lu's room. Upon opening the door, he saw the normally refined Third Master eating ravenously straight from the rice basin. The sight made Urguzi crave a taste more than ever, yet he dared not interrupt. He resolved to secretly cook some of the remaining rice later. Urguzi, Third Master Lu ordered between mouthfuls, bring the rest of that rice and flour into my room. What are you gaping at? Go fetch them. Yes, right away. Urguzi left, muttering under his breath. Since when had their master become so miserly? Once Urguzi was gone, Third Master Lu set down the empty rice basin and rubbed his full stomach. Delicious. I have never eaten such wonderful rice in all my life. Even the grain reserved exclusively for grandfather cannot compare to this. No wonder that woman said this batch of goods was 100 times better than what was available on the market. It seemed she was telling the absolute truth. If this grain turned up on the black market, it would surely cause a buying frenzy. After all, money does not guarantee you can get grain these days. Soon, Urga brought over the rice and flour. Third Master Lu took them, thought for a moment, and poured out 3 jin of each. He turned to Urgu and said, "Send this grain to the old man by post tomorrow." Urga stared blankly at the portioned-out grain. "Sir, are we really mailing such a small amount to the old master?" Third Master Lu said, "You know nothing. Just do as you are told." Urga replied, "Oh." Looking at Urgu's dumbfounded expression, Third Master Lu reconsidered. "Forget it. Leave the grain here. I will mail it myself tomorrow." Urga set the grain down. "Understood, boss." Glancing at the dishes that had been served, Third Master Lu waved at Urgo. "Take these dishes downstairs and share them with the others." He had no appetite at all. "Very well, boss." Urgo picked up the dishes and left. Once Urgo was gone, Third Master Lu felt an urge to go hang a red ribbon on that tree right away. Meanwhile, Fu Qingli had left the small courtyard. She found a deserted spot, got on her bicycle, and rode leisurely toward Kaoshan Production Brigade. Nearing the edge of the county seat, a man suddenly darted out and collapsed right in front of her bicycle. Shocked, Fu Qingli exclaimed, "Who is this?" The man grabbed hold of her bicycle, his voice trembling. "Comrade, please do me a favor. Deliver this item to the Fu family in Jing City and hand it to Commander Fu. If anyone tries to stop you, show them this jade pendant." He pulled a blood-stained jade pendant from inside his coat. "Once he sees this pendant, he will grant you an audience." Hearing the name of the Fu family in Jing City, Fu Qingli quickly got off her bicycle. She looked at the blood-soaked man before her. "Who are you? What is your name?" For some reason, Fu Weigua felt a strange sense of warmth coming from the woman in front of him. "My name is Fu Weigua." No sooner had he spoken than he coughed up a mouthful of blood. He was taking a gamble, betting she was a good person who would deliver the documents to the Fu family. If she refused, it could not be helped. Only he and his father could understand the intelligence. It would be a terrible waste if the information bought with his comrades' lives vanished without a trace. His head lolled to one side and he passed out. Immediately, heavy footsteps drew near. More than a dozen armed men rushed to where Fu Qingli stood. She faced them. "Did you do this to him?" The lead man glanced at Fu Qingli and the unconscious Fu Weigua. "Mind your own business, or you will lose your life." "Is that so?" Before their astonished eyes, Fu Qingli waved her hand and stored Fu Weigua inside her spatial dimension. "Kaya, look after my uncle." Kaya answered, "Understood, master." Rest assured. Fu Qingli was now certain that this man named Fu Weigua was her paternal uncle, who had gone missing 10 years before. Watching the man vanish into thin air, the men's pupils constricted. They stepped back instinctively. But thinking about their superior's orders, failure to capture the fugitive would cost them their own lives. They steeled themselves and advanced again. "Who are you? Hand that man over at once." Fu Qingli asked, "And who might you be?" The lead man said, "We are from the Revolutionary Committee." "The Revolutionary Committee? What crime has my uncle committed to be wounded so badly by you people?" The lead man narrowed his eyes. "Your uncle? So you're in league with this state-secret thief. Do not blame us for being ruthless. Seize her." Fu Qingli's eyes turned cold. "You are not qualified to take me captive." The onlookers watched as she lifted her hand. Countless tongues of fire rolled toward them. They scrambled to dodge, yet the flames seemed to have a will of their own, clinging tightly to their bodies. They beat wildly at the fire, but the eerie flames would not be put out. Terror seized the group. Agonized cries rang out. "Spare us! We beg you!" This was not our idea. Deputy Director Lu ordered us to capture him. Fu Qingli asked, where did his injuries come from? The leader shook all over in agony. He was already badly hurt when we found him. Spare me. I have elderly parents and young children at home. Please spare me. If you know nothing useful, you have no reason to live. Fu Qingli channeled her supernatural power. The fire blazed higher. The shrill screams faded little by little until silence fell. All dozen men were reduced to fine ash. She waved her hand and scattered the ashes. Traitors and enemy agents were the things she hated most in this world. Residents along the road had heard the dreadful commotion. They kept their doors and windows tightly shut, covering their ears in fright. A few braver souls peeked cautiously out their windows. The sight nearly drove them out of their wits. They saw fire coiling around the men, burning fiercely no matter how hard they beat at it. They slammed their windows shut, muttering to themselves, will-o'-the-wisp. Afterwards, Fu Qingli entered her spatial dimension. When Deputy Director Lu of the Revolutionary Committee arrived with his men, the scene was empty. Only a faint acrid stench lingered in the air. Damn it, he got away. Search everywhere. His subordinates scattered to hunt for clues. Inside the space, Fu Qingli hurried over to her dying uncle. Kair flew toward her. Master, I have used spiritual spring water to sustain his last spark of life. Yet his injuries are catastrophic. Hardly an inch of his skin is unharmed. We cannot give him too much spring water all at once. His body is far too weak. An overdose might cause his body to rupture. Fu Qingli leaned in for a closer look. It had been dark outside, and she had not seen the full extent of his wounds. Now she trembled at what she saw. His clothes were torn to rags. His body was crisscrossed with whip marks. Black and festering burn scars left by branding irons, old dried blood mixed with fresh pus coating his flesh. His left leg twisted at a grotesque angle, clearly broken by brute force. The tendons in his right hand had been cut. A fatal knife wound pierced his chest, injuring his internal organs, blood still seeping slowly from the gash. The wound was obviously very recent. Multiple bones were fractured. Many wounds were already inflamed and festering. After examining him, Fu Qingli's expression darkened. Who could have been so cruel as to torture her uncle like this? She could scarcely imagine the iron will that had let him flee in such a broken state. If he had not run into her tonight, he would have surely died. In her past life, this must have been the night he perished. Memories surfaced of childhood days when her uncle would hoist her onto his shoulders and play with her. Without further delay, she fetched a wooden tub from the bamboo building, laid Fu Weigua inside, and set his dislocated broken leg back into proper alignment. She filled the tub with spiritual spring water, submerging all of him except his head. She placed her palm over his chest, and wood element supernatural power streamed out, pouring steadily into his shattered body. Under the combined effect of spiritual spring water and wood element power, the black festering dead skin peeled away rapidly, and fresh new skin grew in its place. His broken leg, severed hand tendons, and fatal chest wound all healed and mended at a startling pace. Fu Qingli had not expected such a powerful synergy between the spring water and her wood element ability. The ashen pallor of Fu Weigua's features faded, giving way to a hint of color. His faint breathing grew steady. Fu Qingli finally relaxed. Once she was certain his vital signs were stable, she withdrew her power. She drank a cup of spiritual spring water to replenish her drained energy. She carried him to the ground floor of the bamboo building and laid him on a makeshift bamboo bed. She would need to travel to Jing City as soon as possible. The intelligence her uncle had brought back must be of immense importance. She turned to Kair. Keep watch over my uncle. Wake me immediately the moment he shows any sign of regaining consciousness. Under no circumstances must he discover the secret of this spatial dimension. Kair answered, understood, master. Having given her instructions, Fu Qingli left the space. She mounted her bicycle and headed back toward Kaoshan Production Brigade. It was past 11 at night, nearly midnight. She stored the bicycle inside her space. She climbed over the back wall of the Educated Youth compound, walked into her small room, and lay down on the heated Kong, falling fast asleep. Early the next morning, Fu Qingli went to the brigade headquarters. The brigade leader looked surprised. You want to go back to Jing City? Yes, brigade leader. I have urgent business and must return. The brigade leader thought for a moment. The grape planting season was over, so he granted her 15 days of leave. Fu Qingli had not expected him to agree so readily. She thanked him, took her introduction letter, and headed straight for the railway station. At the station, she noticed many people moving about restlessly, searching everywhere. Her eyes narrowed. These men were most likely working for the group she had encountered the night before. She bought a ticket for the earliest train to Jing City and waited quietly in the waiting hall. She watched them whispering to one another, making hand signals. They were conducting strict checks, paying special attention to men and anyone with injuries. They searched every bag travelers carried. Observing this, Fu Qingli lowered her gaze. That piece of intelligence must indeed be extremely significant. Soon, boarding began for the Jing City-bound train. Men from that group stood guard at the ticket gate. They scrutinized Fu Qingli from head to toe, even tearing open her decoy package for a thorough inspection. Fu Qingli's eyes narrowed. The mastermind behind all this wielded considerable influence. The inspection finished, and she boarded the train. More of those men patrolled back and forth through the carriages. She ignored them and closed her eyes to rest. She had bought her ticket in a rush and could not get a sleeper berth. The carriage was noisy. The stench of smoke, sweat, and flapping poultry hung heavy in the air, making it hard to breathe. The aisles were crammed full. Sacks and bamboo baskets were stuffed even under the seats. Chickens and ducks tied inside baskets clucked and quacked now and then. Leaning against her seat, Fu Qingli spread out her spiritual sense, keeping track of the patrolling men. Disguised as ordinary passengers, they wandered between carriages, scanning every face. Whenever they spotted someone of similar build or bearing wounds, they would stop to interrogate them and rummage through their luggage. One middle-aged man with a bandaged arm was detained on the spot. Several men surrounded him, bombarding him with questions and going through every single one of his belongings before finally letting him go. The other passengers watched uneasily. A heavy mood hung over the carriage. Fu Qingli kept her eyes down, giving no hint of what she thought. She bore no wounds, and her appearance marked her as someone of relatively good standing. The men glanced over her several times. The train clattered onward. By noon, the carriage grew livelier. Passengers pulled out their food, cornmeal flatbreads, sweet potatoes. A small number of better-off travelers took out steamed buns, eating them with cold water from enamel mugs. The smell of dry rations mingled with the other odors. An elderly woman sitting beside her noticed she had not taken out any food. She kindly held out a piece of coarse grain flatbread. "Girl, eat something. It is a long journey, do not go hungry." Fu Qingli opened her eyes and smiled faintly, declining politely. "Thank you, Auntie. I brought food with me." Using the cover of her spatial dimension, she took out a steamed bun. At the same time, she used her spiritual sense to check on Fu Weiguo lying on the bamboo bed inside the space. He was still unconscious, yet his breathing remained steady, with Kair standing guard beside him. She felt relieved. Just then, two of the patrolling men walked over and fixed their eyes on Fu Qingli. One of them spoke. "Comrade, where are you traveling to? Show us your introduction letter." Fu Qingli calmly handed it over. He carefully checked the name, native place, and destination printed on the document, then studied her once more. "Are you returning to Jing City alone? Has something happened to your family?" "An elderly family member is unwell. I am going back to visit them." Her tone remained level. Finding nothing suspicious, they returned the letter and moved toward the front of the carriage. Once they were out of earshot, the elderly woman beside her whispered, "The checks along this route are so strict. I wonder who they are hunting for." A middle-aged man nearby sighed and replied in a low voice, "Word is a major criminal has escaped. Orders have come down for every station and train along the route to conduct thorough searches. Us ordinary folk have to suffer through all this trouble." No one dared speak loudly. People exchanged a few quiet remarks before falling silent again. Meanwhile, Jiang Meihua and Song Yang got off their train and hurried for Red Flag Commune's Kaoshan Production Brigade. After great difficulty, they arrived and went straight to find the brigade leader. He looked at them. "And you are?" Jiang Meihua said, "I am educated youth Fu's mother. Yao has come to see her elder sister, and I was worried, so I have come along." She gestured to Song Yang beside her. "This is Yao's husband. We have come to bring her home." The brigade leader regarded Jiang Meihua with complex feelings. This was the woman who had torn apart Fu Qingli's family. He then looked over Song Yang. He cut a handsome figure, yet in the brigade leader's eyes, he was not good enough for Fu Qingli. Song Yang grew displeased under the brigade leader's unbroken scrutiny. "Captain Liu, please take me to my wife." The brigade leader rolled his eyes. "Follow me." They soon reached the educated youth compound, but Fu Qingyao was nowhere to be found. Jiang Meihua panicked at once. You said Yao was staying in this room. Where is she? The brigade leader shot her a glance. She has hands and feet of her own. How should I know where she has gone? Jiang Meihua's chest tightened. She took a deep breath. Then where is Fu Qingli? She went back to Jing City early this morning. What did you say? Jiang Meihua nearly shouted. The brigade leader rubbed his ear. Lower your voice. I am not deaf. Good grief, you almost burst my eardrum. Why are you yelling? Song Yang frowned. If I recall correctly, educated youth Fu has only been sent down to the countryside for a little over a month. Why would she return to the city? The brigade leader replied, she wanted to go back, so she went. I cannot hold her prisoner. Besides, the busy planting period is finished. There is not much work to be done right now. Jiang Meihua paid no mind to Fu Qingli's departure. All she cared about was locating her own daughter. Yet no one she asked had seen her precious girl. No one knew where she had vanished to. Her heart sank. Where on earth had Yao gone? Song Yang spoke up. Mother, do you think Yao might have gone to Jing City along with Fu Qingli? Jiang Meihua said, I hope so. She turned to him. We must hurry back to Jing City. Song Yang objected. What? Leave right now? I cannot go on. I need a night's rest first. The past 2 days of train travel had left him worn out. He insisted on stopping for the night. He turned to the brigade leader. Is there somewhere we can stay overnight? You can stay in the front building of the educated youth compound. This room rented by Comrade Fu Qingyao is also available for you. Jiang Meihua could not persuade Song Yang otherwise, so they settled in for the night at the compound. Lying on the heated kang that night, Jiang Meihua pictured her daughter sleeping on this hard, cold bed with hardly any bedding. Her heart ached for her child, and tears rolled down her cheeks. Yao, why must you be so stubborn, coming all the way out to this place? She tossed and turned. Exhausted from the journey, she eventually drifted off. Yet her sleep was short-lived. She jolted awake from a nightmare. She had dreamed her daughter stood covered in blood beside the king, begging her to avenge her. Her heart pounded with dread. She sat bolt upright. Why do I keep dreaming something terrible has happened to Yao? Could misfortune really have befallen her daughter? No, that could not be. She must be frightening herself. Dreams often meant the opposite. Yao had to be safe. She kept reassuring herself until dawn broke. She could bear it no longer. She rushed to the male-educated youth quarters and banged on the door, rousing Song Yang. Quick, we need to get to the county seat. The woken young men were furious. Damn it, it gets bright early out here. It is barely 3 or 4 o'clock. Making such a racket this early, are you out of your mind? They pulled their quilts over their heads, trying to block everything out. Song Yang had been sleeping soundly and resented being woken. Still, seeing the pale light of dawn in the sky, he dragged himself up and followed Jiang Meihua toward the county seat. As they walked out of the compound, Jiang Meihua thought she faintly heard a voice calling "Mother" coming from the distant back mountain. She turned toward the hills. A strange sense of loss washed over her, and her feet began to carry her in that direction. Song Yang frowned. Mother, what are you doing? We are supposed to head for the county seat. His voice snapped her out of her daze. Confused, she muttered, what came over me just now? She turned away. I must be worn out from lack of sleep. Let us go quickly. They soon reached the railway station. The earliest train for Jing City would not depart until after 8 o'clock. Song Yang glanced at the clock. It was not even 5. His face darkened. Jiang Meihua saw his bad temper and grew annoyed with him in return. They grabbed a simple breakfast near the station and waited in the main hall. Song Yang kept nodding off from fatigue. Irritated by the sight of him dozing, Jiang Meihua turned her head away. Before long, boarding for the Jing City bound train began. Jiang Meihua nudged Song Yang with her foot. Hurry up. They're checking tickets. Song Yang rubbed his sleepy eyes and sat up in a daze. He picked up his train ticket and followed the others to the ticket-checking gate. After getting his ticket checked, the two boarded the train and soon found their seats and sat down. The carriage buzzed with voices, mixed with all kinds of unpleasant smells. Song Yang's stomach churned, and he could not help retching. An elderly woman sitting beside him caught sight of him and curled her lip. This pretty-faced young man, how spoiled he is. Song Yang flared up at once. Who are you calling a pretty-faced layabout? The woman rolled her eyes at him. I'm talking about you. Song Yang said angrily, do you know who I am? How dare you speak to me like that? The woman shot back, what, don't you know your own identity that you need to ask me? The surrounding passengers burst into laughter and gave the woman approving looks. Everyone had long grown annoyed with Song Yang. Ever since he got on the train, he had complained about everything. If he disliked it so much, he should not have taken the train. Mocked by the crowd, Song Yang's anger boiled over. How dare you common folk laugh at me? The woman's face turned cold instantly. Who are you calling common folk? Are you looking down on farmers? Our great leader said working people are the most honorable. Do you disagree with those words? At those words, cold sweat broke out on Song Yang's forehead. You are talking nonsense. I meant no such thing. Seeing how pathetic Song Yang looked, Jiang Meihua rolled her eyes secretly. Still, she could not let him stir up trouble, so she quickly stepped in to smooth things over. Auntie, you misunderstood. He didn't mean that, she trailed off with a long sigh. The woman frowned. He just what? Why stop halfway? You're making me anxious. Sighing again, Jiang Meihua glanced at Song Yang and tapped her own temple. Don't be fooled by his appearance. His mind isn't quite right. Everyone's eyes turned toward Song Yang in unison. He stared at Jiang Meihua in utter shock. Some onlookers nodded in understanding. Oh, so there is something wrong with his head. As soon as he realized what had happened, Song Yang was about to fly into a rage. Jiang Meihua slapped him lightly on the head and warned him in a low voice, keep quiet if you don't want trouble. Intimidated, Song Yang calmed down at once. For the rest of the journey, however, he turned away and sulked, refusing to speak another word to Jiang Meihua. Watching him throw a tantrum, the passengers believed Jiang Meihua's story even more. She paid no attention to his mood, her only wish being to reach the capital and meet Fu Qingyao as soon as possible. Meanwhile, after more than 20 hours on the train, Fu Qingli finally arrived in the capital. Instead of heading straight back to the military compound, she went to a two-story detached courtyard left to her by her mother. She looked around the gate to make sure no one was watching, then climbed over the wall into the yard. The courtyard was spotlessly clean. Fu Qingli knew her grandfather had arranged for someone to come and tidy it regularly. The caretaker had done a thorough job and not cut any corners. She unlocked the door, walked upstairs to the secondary bedroom, and waved her hand, transporting the unconscious Fu Weigua out of her spatial storage. Fu Qingli felt her great uncle's pulse. His body was recovering well. He remained unconscious only from extreme physical and mental exhaustion that required his brain to rest. After settling Fu Weigua in bed, she went into her space to wash up. Worn out after 2 days of travel, she lay down on the bamboo bed and fell fast asleep. She did not wake up until nightfall. Glancing at her wristwatch, she saw it was past 8 o'clock in the evening. She went downstairs, steamed a pot of rice, cooked fish soup, and reheated the braised pork she had bought from the state-run restaurant. After a hearty meal, most of her tiredness faded away. She then stepped out of her space carrying the fish soup, fed Fu Weigua some diluted spiritual spring water, and left the soup in the kitchen so he could heat it up when he woke. By the time she finished everything, it was past 9 at night. After a simple disguise, she left the courtyard. She went to the military compound, found the dog hole she had crawled through as a child, climbed over the wall beside it, and made her way stealthily to her grandfather's single-family building. Dodging patrolling guards, she climbed through the window into the old man's bedroom. Hearing the noise, old man Fu shot upright in bed, pulled a pistol from under his pillow, and whispered sharply, "Who's there?" Surprised by her grandfather's sharp reflexes, Fu Qingli spoke quickly. "Grandpa, it's me." Recognizing her voice, the old man quickly put his pistol away. A guard outside noticed the disturbance. "Chief, is something wrong?" He reached for the door handle, ready to step inside. Old man Fu hurried to reply, "Nothing. I just had a bad dream. No need to come in." "Very well. Call if you need anything, Chief." MHM. Fu Qingli pressed a hand to her forehead in exasperation. Had her skills slipped that much that she could be detected so easily? What she did not know was that her grandfather's remarkable agility came from the ginseng wine she had brewed for him. The ginseng had grown in her spirit, infused space water, enhanced further by spiritual spring water. No wonder his fitness had improved so dramatically. The old man lowered his voice. "Girl, why have you come back? Did you run away? Don't be afraid. With me here, no one will harm you." Fu Qingli laughed helplessly. "Grandpa, what sort of person do you take me for?" She stepped closer and whispered, "Grandpa, I need you to come with me to meet someone." Old man Fu looked confused. "You traveled all the way back from the northeast just to take me to see one person? This person is extremely important." After a short pause for thought, the old man said, I'll ask Uncle Gua to drive us there. Grandpa, it is better that only the two of us go. One eyebrow shot up. Who on earth is this person, that everything must be so secret? You will find out when we get there. Old man Fu thought for a moment. Very well. But how do we slip past the guards at the gate? Fit as he was now, climbing down from the second floor window was far too risky for a man of his age. He called toward the door. Xiaogua, you may go home for tonight. I would like some chili sauce your wife made. Bring it for me tomorrow. Right away, Chief. The guard left cheerfully. Once he was gone, old man Fu followed Fu Qingli outside. She led him past patrolling sentries until they reached the old dog hole. Seeing the low opening, the old man stared in disbelief. You don't expect me to crawl through that, do you? Of course not. I would never ask you to do that. Fu Qingli dragged a large stone over to the wall. She leaped lightly onto the top of the wall, leaned down and held out her hand. Grandpa, stand on the stone and give me your hand. I will pull you up. The old man looked at her with a complicated expression. When did you learn to climb walls like this? Instead of taking her hand, he stepped back a few paces, ran forward and jumped, clearing the wall with effortless skill. Fu Qingli stared at him in amazement. Grandpa, you're over 60. You move like a much younger man. I have you to thank for it. Ever since I started drinking that ginseng wine you gave me, I feel as though I have turned back the clock more than 10 years. Really? Then I will brew you another jar. You cannot treat rare ginseng like turnips you dig out of the field. Fu Qingli thought silently to herself. To me, ginseng really is as common as turnips. I have mountains of it in my space. She jumped down from the wall. Let's go. She led her grandfather toward the courtyard. The moment they left, a figure appeared on the compound wall. The watcher stared at their retreating backs, then slipped back inside. Before long, Fu Qingli brought her grandfather to the courtyard. Once again, she climbed straight over the wall. Old man Fu shook his head. This girl, always climbing walls. Where's a young lady's sense of propriety? He then vaulted over the wall himself. As soon as his feet touched the ground, he heard Fu Qingli push open the door and call, Grandpa, come inside quickly. He hurried after her, and they went straight up to the second floor. Fu Qingli opened the bedroom door. Old man Fu saw a man lying on the bed. Stirred by the noise, the man frowned, slowly opened his eyes, and finding himself in unfamiliar surroundings, jumped out of bed in an instant, ready to defend himself. When old man Fu recognized his face, he froze. Trembling with emotion, his voice shook. Weigua. Fu Weigua's vision cleared. He saw the old man, his eyes widening in shock. Father. Hearing that long-awaited word, old man Fu staggered forward and wrapped his arms around his son. Weigua, my boy. Where have you been all these years? You have no idea how much I have missed you. Father, I am sorry. I was carrying out a top-secret mission for our country. Now that the mission is finished, I have finally come home. I missed you terribly. Watching the emotional reunion, Fu Qingli quietly closed the door and stepped outside. She went down to the yard. She sat on the swing and swayed gently as the evening breeze brushed her cheeks. Some time later, a voice called from inside, Girl, come in. Fu Qingli hurried upstairs. Both her grandfather and her great-uncle had red, tear-stained eyes. Fu Weigua waved her over. Girl, come here so your great-uncle can look at you. She stepped forward. Fu Weigua studied her and smiled. You have grown taller and become a beautiful young woman. Then his expression turned confused as he thought back to his injuries. Wait a minute. How did you end up in that small county in the northeast? The night I was wounded, I met an elderly woman. Yet I woke up here in the capital. All my wounds have healed completely, even my broken leg and severed tendons in my hands. What exactly happened? Fu Qingli had already prepared her explanation. Great, uncle, I do not know all the details. An old woman entrusted you to me, and told me I had to bring you back to the capital quickly or your life would be in danger. Then she vanished without a trace. I cannot explain how your injuries healed. I followed her instructions, asked the village leader for leave the next day, and took the train back here with you. She also gave me a paper talisman that hid your presence from other people. We reached the courtyard safely, and the talisman burned away of its own accord. Fu Weigua sank into deep thought. He wondered if he had met a hidden master. No ordinary person could have healed such terrible wounds. Yet the story sounded too strange to tell most people. Old man Fu's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. He knew the world held many secrets beyond ordinary understanding, powers that bordered on the supernatural. Long ago on the battlefield, he had witnessed inexplicable events, men who could summon fire out of thin air or call down lightning. The country ran a special operations department known to very few people, and he was one of those insiders. The department answered directly to the top leadership. Its director was a young man from the Liu family, publicly serving as a regiment commander. He had recently fallen into a coma after being wounded by an evil force while on a mission. Fu Qingli watched her two relatives nervously, afraid they would doubt her story. Then Fu Weiguo looked sharply at her. Even if that old woman saved me, what about you? Why were you in the Northeast in the first place? Her heart skipped a beat, fearing he had uncovered her secret. What other reason could there be? I was sent down to the countryside. Fu Weiguo looked utterly stunned. Sent down to the countryside? How could the family allow that? What went wrong? Seeing his agitation, Old Man Fu sighed and told him everything Jiang Meihua and Fu Weiguo had done behind everyone's backs. Furious, Fu Weiguo burst out, "Has Fu Weiguo lost his mind? How dare he sign you up for rural education without permission?" Old Man Fu said coldly, who knows what he was thinking. Perhaps his brains got left behind at birth, and they kept the placenta instead. No other explanation fits his foolish choices. When I get back, I will break his legs. Fu Weiguo gritted his teeth. He then turned to Fu Qingli. Girl, now that you are home, find a city job. You do not need to go back and suffer in the countryside. We shall see how things go, Fu Qingli replied. She then asked, Great, uncle, what happened over these 10 years? Fu Weiguo told her the parts of his story that could safely be shared. As he spoke, he began patting his pockets, searching for something. Seeing his behavior, Fu Qingli picked up an envelope and held it out. Are you looking for this? Yes, that is it. Fu Weiguo opened it and checked its contents. Once he confirmed the documents were intact, he let out a long breath of relief. He had thought he would die out there and could only pass the intelligence on to a stranger to deliver to his father. He never imagined the mysterious woman would heal all his life, threatening wounds. Faint burn marks left by a hot iron on his skin were the only proof it had not all been a dream. He still did not know who his savior was, but he swore he would repay her if they ever met again. Now that he was back alive, he planned to hand the top secret information directly to the highest ranking leader to eliminate any risk of leaks through intermediate channels. He turned to Old Man Fu. Father, arrange a meeting between me and the top leader as soon as possible. Rest here in this courtyard first. I will come for you once everything is set. Fu Weiguo nodded. Father, my return must be kept strictly secret. I understand. I will take the girl back to the compound with me now. Very well, father. I will take good care of myself. Old Man Fu and Fu Qingli slipped quietly back to the military compound. Early the next morning, Old Man Fu and his guard left to visit the top leader and did not return until nearly noon. When he saw the food laid on the table and smelled the rich, fragrant rice, he wondered if someone had bought new grain for the house. The guard caught sight of Fu Qingli seated at the table and looked surprised. Comrade Fu, when did you get back? I arrived early this morning, she answered. Grandpa, Uncle Guo, come and eat, Fu Qingli called. The guard shook his head. I will eat with Aunt Zhang in the kitchen. You two have much to talk about after being apart for so long. I will not intrude on your time together. He walked toward the kitchen. Old Man Fu picked up his chopsticks and took a bite of rice. His eyes lit up at once. This rice is wonderful, so fragrant. His appetite surged and he began eating heartily without pause. Seeing her grandfather's delighted reaction, Fu Qingli smiled. Grandpa, isn't it delicious? Very much so. I brought this rice back with me from the Northeast. Old Man Fu stopped eating immediately. Girl, are you telling me this rice came from the Northeast? Yes. It is the same batch I mailed to you before, but you sent it back to me unopened. His expression turned serious. Tell me, where did you get this rice? I got it from a friend I met in the countryside. Old Man Fu raised an eyebrow and lowered his voice. A friend? What kind of friend? You didn't go to the black market, did you? You see everything, Grandpa. This is reckless behavior. Do you have any idea how dangerous those markets are? Grandpa, do you think all those years of military boxing lessons were wasted? I can take care of myself. The authorities will never catch me. Old Man Fu shot her a stern look. Your training was always hit and miss. Climbing walls and squeezing through dog holes is about the limit of your skill. You are forbidden to go there again. Now you are being unfair. I am far more capable these days. She fell silent for a moment, remembering how lazy and out of practice she had been in her past life. Old Man Fu thought she had accepted his warning until she spoke again. But I have grown used to eating this rice and cannot stand ordinary grain any longer. I already agreed to collect more from my friend every month. Do not worry, I will bring a share for you too, Grandpa. Old Man Fu looked at Fu Qingli with a headache. What had happened to this child after her trip to the northeast that made her so disobedient? Just as he was about to reprimand Fu Qingli, they heard the voice of a guard from outside. Before he could ask what was going on, the guard spoke, "Chief, Comrade Jiang and Comrade Song are here to visit. Will you see them?" The moment Old Man Fu heard who the visitors were, he knew exactly who they were. He set down his chopsticks with a look of distaste and frowned. "Let them in." Right after his words fell, Jiang Meihua and Song Yang burst inside. Fu Qingli caught a flash of killing intent in their eyes, then lowered her head, afraid she would lose control and kill Jiang Meihua. Old Man Fu frowned at Jiang Meihua and Song Yang. "Why are you rushing in here in such a flustered state?" Ignoring the elder's rebuke, Jiang Meihua turned toward Fu Qingli, who was sitting at the table eating. She suppressed the hatred welling up inside her and asked, "Where is Yao Yao?" Fu Qingli did not even lift her eyelids and kept on eating. Seeing this, Jiang Meihua strode quickly to the table. "I am asking you, where is Yao Yao?" Old Man Fu's face darkened sharply. He slammed his palm down on the table with a loud crack. "Who gave you permission to question Nanan like that?" The sharp sound snapped Jiang Meihua back to her senses. No one knew how terrible the past 2 days had been for her. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Yao Yao covered in blood, crying out for help. As soon as the train reached its station, she had rushed over to the compound with Song Yang. Staring at the old man's gloomy expression, Jiang Meihua took a deep breath and spoke quickly. "I am sorry, father. I lost my temper just now out of worry. Yao Yao went to the countryside to see Qingli, yet only Qingli has come back. That is why I spoke so harshly. I did not mean to target Qingli." Song Yang spoke up beside her in agreement. "That is right, Grandpa Fu. 3 days after Yao Yao and I got married, she headed to the countryside to visit Qing." He almost called out her old pet name, but realizing it would be inappropriate now that he was married to Fu Qingyao, he corrected himself at once. "Comrade Fu. My mother-in-law and I rushed to the countryside the moment we heard the news, fearing Yao Yao might become a burden to Comrade Fu. When we arrived, Yao Yao was nowhere to be found. The village leader told us Comrade Fu had already returned to Beijing. We assumed Yao Yao had traveled back with her, so we bought train tickets without delay. Too worried about Yao Yao to stop at home, we came straight to this compound." My mother-in-law spoke out of turn only because she was frantic with worry. "Please do not blame her, Grandpa Fu." Old Man Fu frowned and turned toward Fu Qingli. "Nanan, did Fu Qingyao go to the countryside looking for you?" Jiang Meihua fixed her gaze unblinkingly on Fu Qingli, hanging on every word. Fu Qingli set down her bowl and chopsticks, wiped her mouth slowly with a handkerchief, then lifted her eyes to meet Jiang Meihua's. Catching the mixture of anxiety and hatred in them, she raised an eyebrow and answered Old Man Fu. "Yes, Fu Qingyao did go to the countryside." At once Jiang Meihua grew agitated. "Then where is Yao Yao? Where has she gone?" Fu Qingli said. "How should I know where she went?" Tears welled instantly in Jiang Meihua's eyes. She stared at Fu Qingli with burning resentment. "There is no way you do not know. Yao Yao went looking for you and disappeared." Watching Jiang Meihua teetering on the edge of collapse, Fu Qingli felt a strange sense of satisfaction. She smiled. "She has her own 2 hands and feet. I could hardly keep watch over every place she wandered off to, could I?" Her eyes darkened as she looked directly at Jiang Meihua. Perhaps she wandered up a mountain and was killed by wolves. Or maybe strangers took her far away to some remote valley. She made a playful biting gesture with her mouth. Jiang Meihua completely lost control. "You wicked girl, what are you saying?" The old man flew into a rage. "Repeat what you just said." Trembling under his furious gaze, Jiang Meihua shouted back anyway. "My Yao Yao is missing and this girl must have something to do with it." Old Man Fu roared, "How dare you insult Nanan? Guards, throw her out. She is never to set foot inside this compound again." Song Yang grew anxious and hurried to intercede. "Grandpa Fu, please calm down. My mother-in-law spoke recklessly only because she is terrified for Yao Yao." Ignoring him completely, Old Man Fu thundered, "Get out." Guards came in at once, dragged Jiang Meihua outside, and left her by the gate. Passers-by spotted her and Song Yang and began whispering. "Why, is that Comrade Aigwa's wife and her son-in-law? What on earth happened?" Why was she thrown out of the compound? Jiang Meihua lifted her tear, reddened eyes and snarled at the onlookers. Leave me alone. Seeing her wild-eyed look, the neighbors turned away, muttering disapprovingly as they went. Serves her right. It is karma. Everyone knows what trouble she once caused in another person's family. And her daughter was no better, creating trouble between engaged couples. These words stung Jiang Meihua deeply, and she screamed at them to be quiet. Song Yang felt deeply embarrassed by her outburst, yet he could not abandon her. He stepped forward to help her stand. Mother-in-law, we should go home and find father. Perhaps he can persuade Fu Qingli to tell us where Yao is. His words gave Jiang Meihua a last glimmer of hope. She grabbed his arm and pulled herself upright. Yes, yes. Ai Guo will get answers for us. Song Yang rolled his eyes inwardly at the familiar pet, name she used for her husband, thinking it ridiculous at her age. Soon they returned to their family housing compound. As soon as she stepped inside, Jiang Meihua telephoned Fu Aigua. The second he picked up, she burst into tears. Ai Guo, come home quickly. Yao is missing. Fu Aigua massaged his temples. Did you not go to the countryside with Song Yang to search for her? How could she disappear? I found no trace of Yao in the countryside, Jiang Meihua replied. But your precious daughter has come back to Beijing. Fu Aigua frowned. What do you mean by, my precious daughter has returned? Jiang Meihua drew a deep breath. Fu Qingli is back in the capital, yet Yao is gone. I asked her where Yao is, and she refuses to say. She broke down in loud sobs. Irritated by her crying, Fu Aigua said, Stop crying. I will go to father's place shortly and look into this. He hung up the phone. Song Yang watched Jiang Meihua wailing on the floor and winced at the noise. Mother-in-law, I am heading home. Call me if you need anything. He turned and left. Watching him walk away without a backward glance, Jiang Meihua cried even louder. Yao, is this the man you chose? He cares nothing whether you are alive or dead. Some distance away, Song Yang quickened his pace. Back at the compound, old man Fu looked at Fu Qingli, whose mood seemed far too cheerful. Fu Qingao is missing, and you're happy about it? Fu Qingli answered, naturally. Shaking his head at her unapologetic attitude, the old man sighed. You. Tell me, did you have something to do with her disappearance? Fu Qingli said, Grandfather, would you like the truth or a lie? Old man Fu shot her a look. The truth. Her disappearance is my doing, Fu Qingli said calmly. But she deserved what happened to her. Old man Fu's expression hardened. What are you saying? Is this true? She admitted it herself. My mother did not jump into the river by choice all those years ago. Fu Qingao pushed her in and drowned her. A flash of murderous anger crossed old man Fu's face. That wicked girl. I always thought our daughter-in-law was not the type to take her own life. So there was treachery all along. Tell me where she is, grandchild. I will avenge your mother. Fu Qingli said, there is no need. I have already avenged mother myself. Old man Fu stared at her. Did you kill her? Fu Qingli asked softly, Grandfather, do you think I have become cruel-hearted? Cruel-hearted? Old man Fu scoffed. Blood for blood. The debt for a mother's life can never be forgotten. If you had done nothing, I would have lost respect for you. Relief spread across Fu Qingli's face. Rest assured, Grandfather. I will not spare anyone who harmed my mother, and that includes Jiang Meihua. Old man Fu understood Jiang Meihua must also be involved. Though Fu Qingao had still been a child at the time, the root of all the evil lay with his own son. Work carefully. Leave no evidence behind that could be used against you. I will, Fu Qingli promised. Old man Fu studied his granddaughter. The harsh, frigid weather of the northeast had changed her greatly in little more than a month. Still, it was for the best. Once he was no longer around, no one would dare bully her. Just then, their guard knocked. Chief, Comrade Fu Aigua has arrived. Old man Fu frowned. Show him in. Fu Aigua entered. After greeting his father, he turned straight to Fu Qingli. Nan, where is Yao? Fu Qingli held out her palms. I do not know. How can you not know? Fu Aigua pressed. She went to find you. Just because she came looking for me does not make me responsible for her whereabouts, Fu Qingli retorted. I never asked her to travel out there. I owe her no duty of care. Fu Aigua frowned. That is no way to speak. Sisters ought to look out for one another. Yao is your younger sister. You should have kept an eye on her while she was with you. Fu Qingli stuck a finger in her ear. Do you hear how ridiculous that sounds? Since when is she my sister? Mother gave birth only to me and my 2 elder brothers. Do not bring random strangers into my family. Fu Aigua's voice rose. What kind of talk is that? Calling people strangers? Where are your manners? The next moment, old man Fu struck him hard with his cane. You foolish boy. The first thing you do when you walk in here is not ask whether Nan An was safe in Heilongjiang. Instead, you demand news of that wicked girl, and then you dare question Nanan's upbringing. Are you accusing her of bad manners? Or are you accusing me, the man who raised her? Caught off guard, Fu Aigua stumbled backward, clutching his aching shoulder. Father, why are you acting unreasonably? Yao is missing. Is it wrong for me to ask Nan An? She went out to the countryside looking for her. Old man Fu said sharply, her disappearance is her own fault. She should never have gone to find Nan An. Father, Fu Aigua exclaimed. She is your granddaughter. Nonsense. Old man Fu snapped. I already have grandchildren. She is no granddaughter of mine. How can you say that? Fu Aigua protested. She has called you grandfather for years. She would have remained my granddaughter had she behaved honorably, old man Fu replied. But like her mother, she harbored wicked intentions and bullied my Nan An. Fu Aigua grew defensive. Father, you misjudge her. Yao is kind-hearted. Do not condemn her because of what happened between her and Song Yang. Matters of the heart cannot be forced. Old man Fu snorted angrily. Kind-hearted? Would a truly kind-hearted girl steal her own sister's fiancé? You are not just blind, you have lost your sense. Get out of my sight. But I still have no information about Yao, Fu Aigua insisted. Fu Qingli rolled her eyes to herself, wondering whether she ought to send him to join Fu Qingyao so he could find out her fate. Old man Fu lifted his cane and struck Fu Aigua again. Yelling in pain, Fu Aigua was forced to leave the compound. When he arrived home, he found Jiang Meiwa wailing loudly. He shouted in frustration. Enough. Stop crying. Jiang Meiwa jumped to her feet. Well? Aigua, did you find out anything about Yao? Nothing, Fu Aigua said. She is a grown woman. Chances are she will turn up in a few days. Jiang Meiwa's heart sank. Could he truly care so little for their daughter's safety? Sighing, Fu Aigua said, Very well, I will make a phone call. He dialed Director Zhang at the Revolutionary Committee. Director Zhang was surprised to hear from him again so soon. Then Fu Aigua explained that his younger daughter Fu Qingao had vanished while staying at Kaoshan Production Brigade. Director Zhang took the news seriously. The granddaughter of a senior leader had gone missing within his jurisdiction. Do not worry. I will send people to investigate immediately. Relieved, Fu Aigua thanked him and hung up. There, stop crying. Director Zhang has promised to search for Yao. News should come soon. Jiang Meiwa looked at him gratefully. Aigua, I knew I could count on you. Meanwhile, Director Zhang telephoned Lu Lin from the Public Security Group. Lu Lin was alarmed. Could human traffickers still be at large? Was the female-educated youth in danger? Rest assured, Director Zhang. I will lead a team out there myself, Lu Lin said. He set off at once with Ji Xiangdong and several officers. Learning that Fu Qingli had already returned to Beijing eased his worries on her behalf. They spent 2 days investigating Fu Qingyao's disappearance at Kaoshan Production Brigade, yet uncovered no useful clues. They returned to headquarters to report their lack of progress. After their departure, the villagers grew nervous, fearing more human traffickers. Parents kept a close watch over their children and avoided the educated youth dormitory. The young people living there felt the villagers' hostility. They were assigned heavy-duty jobs earning barely any work points. Resentment boiled inside them. They blamed Zhao Fujuan and, even more bitterly, Fu Qingli. If she had not reported the traffickers to the public security group, none of these troubles would have fallen on them. Inside the prison, Zhao Fujuan stared blankly at his verdict and his severance document. Verdict: death, to be carried out in 3 days. The severance paper bore thumbprints from his father, mother, brother, sister, grandfather, and grandmother. Their statement declared him unworthy of being called human, guilty of kidnapping and selling others. They wrote that they wished he had never been born and claimed complete ignorance of his crimes. Zhao Fujuan laughed bitterly to himself. Ignorant? They had happily accepted the money and ration coupons he brought home, never asking where they came from, choosing to pretend they knew nothing, even when they suspected wrongdoing. He had wasted his whole life for a family that cared nothing for him. 3 days passed quickly. Zhao Fujuan and his gang were escorted to the execution ground, hoods pulled over their heads. Shots rang out, and the traffickers fell. Seeing no one come to claim their bodies, Lu Lin gestured to his men. Dispose of the remains. One of the workers spoke quietly over the bodies. Be a good person in your next life. Never traffic other human beings. To die without anyone to mourn you brings shame on your whole family. Back in Beijing, important meetings between eldest uncle and senior government leaders had shifted the political atmosphere. Old man Fu sat facing Fu Weigua. Change was coming to Beijing. Fu Weigua nodded. The intelligence he held was powerful enough to shake the city. Worry crossed old man Fu's face. Turmoil would bring danger. Since the Fu family had submitted that critical information, vengeful enemies might target Fu Qingli to get back at them. He turned to his granddaughter. Nan, Beijing will soon be unsafe for you. You should return to the northeast for now. Come back once everything here settles down. Fu Qingli replied, Very well, grandfather. I will leave tomorrow. I shall arrange your travel immediately, old man Fu said. Fu Weigua frowned. Father, must she go? Over the coming days, you and I will both be far too busy to protect her, old man Fu explained. We must send her away before our opponents realize what is happening. Just then, their guard appeared. Chief, Comrade Fu Weigua and his wife Comrade Jiang Meihua are requesting an audience. Fu Weigua spoke before his father could reply. Let them enter. Fu Weigua and Jiang Meihua walked in. Jiang Meihua's eyes were dark, ringed and her features haggard. Clear signs she had not slept properly for days. Without hesitation, Jiang Meihua dropped to her knees before Fu Qingli. Qingli, I was wrong about everything. Please tell me where Yao is. Shocked, Fu Weigua pulled her back to her feet. What are you doing? Jiang Meihua refused to stand. She stayed kneeling. Please, tell me where my daughter is. Fu Weigua narrowed his eyes. Using an elder-junior relationship to pressure someone in this way was a manipulative trick. Fu Weigua, he said coldly, is this the wife you chose? Fu Weigua froze in shock when he recognized his elder brother's voice. He stared in disbelief. Eldest brother. Everyone said you died. Fu Weigua turned around and strode toward him. Panicked by childhood memories of beatings, Fu Weigua tried to run. But Fu Weigua caught him firmly by the shoulder. Where do you think you are going? Who told you I was dead? Pain shot through Fu Weigua's shoulder. He forced a nervous smile. Eldest brother, it was all a misunderstanding. When did you come back? He had always feared his formidable elder brother and regretted coming here at all. Ignoring his question, Fu Weigua tightened his grip. What game are you two playing? Brother, we are playing no game, Fu Weigua stammered. We only came to ask Nan and if she knows what happened to Yao Yao. You speak Yao's name with such warmth, Fu Weigua said sharply. An onlooker would think she was your own daughter. Fu Weigua's eyes darted nervously. Of course she is not my daughter. Jiang Meihua stared in utter shock. This man had been reported dead 10 years ago. How could he be standing here alive? Fu Weigua pressed on. If she is not your biological daughter, why did you send Nanan out to the countryside in her place? Sweat dripped from Fu Weigua's forehead. Yao's health was poor. She could not endure rural hardship. Enraged, Fu Weigua punched him hard across the jaw, knocking him to the ground. Yao could not bear hardship, but Nanan could? Fu Weigua clutched his jaw in agony and spat out a loose, blood-stained tooth. You struck far too hard. Fu Weigua looked surprised at the power of his blow, having meant to hold back his strength. Still, he showed no mercy. Foolish man. Today I will teach you a lesson. He rained blows down on Fu Weigua until he lay helpless on the ground, crying out in pain. Old man Fu watched, thoroughly satisfied. He had longed to beat his son for years, though his body was no longer strong enough. Fu Qingli glanced amusedly at Jiang Meihua, caught awkwardly halfway between kneeling and standing. She stepped forward, bent down, and whispered quietly into her ear. Do you long to find your precious daughter? You will never see her again. She is dead. Wild animals tore her body apart. And I stood there, watching it all happen. Are you surprised? Jiang Meihua's mind went completely blank. She stared in horror at Fu Qingli's bright, smiling face. Had she heard correctly? Her Yao was dead, killed by wild beasts? No, it could not be true. This cruel girl must be lying to her. Her clever, wonderful daughter could not possibly be gone. Fu Qingli watched Jiang Meihua's face twist with agony and disbelief, and she felt a surge of satisfaction. She leaned close to Jiang Meihua's ear and whispered, "This is your karma for murdering my mother." Then she slowly turned and walked back to her seat. Old man Fu watched the scene, his eyes flickering slightly as he pretended to have seen nothing. A hoarse, inhuman scream tore through the room a moment later. No! Jiang Meihua spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. As she lost consciousness, her mind was flooded with two thoughts. How had that girl discovered she had killed Fu Qing, Li's mother, and the image of her daughter being devoured by wild beasts? A faint smile tugged at Fu Qing, Li's lips as she watched. She realized then that the worst suffering was not death itself, but forcing an enemy to live in endless torment. Fu Wei, Guo finally stopped his attack at the sound of the scream. He glanced at the badly beaten Fu Ai, Guo, then at the unconscious Jiang Mei, Hua. Her self-control is terrible. She fainted from fright before I even laid a hand on her. He had never believed in striking women. He picked up a nearby handkerchief and wiped the blood from his hands. Old Man Fu's mouth twitched when he saw Fu Ai, Guo's swollen, battered face. Fu Qing, Li raised an eyebrow at Fu Ai, Guo's bruised features. Her uncle had struck hard, looking blows. Yet all the injuries were only superficial, ugly to behold but far from dangerous. Old Man Fu called out to the guards waiting outside. Take them to the hospital for treatment. Guards soon entered and carried Fu Ai, Guo and Jiang Mei, Hua Wei. Old Man Fu burned with curiosity about what Fu Qing, Li had whispered to Jiang Mei, Hua to trigger such a complete mental collapse. Yet he chose not to ask. The guards who had escorted the pair to the hospital quickly returned. Fu Ai, Guo had sustained nothing more than surface wounds. Jiang Mei, Hua, however, had suffered severe mental shock. And no one could say when she would wake. Old Man Fu lifted his brows upon hearing the report. Very well, he told the guard, saying nothing further. Dinner time soon arrived. Old Man Fu finished 3 full bowls of rice in quick succession. Fu Wei, Guo stared at him in surprise. Father, slow down. No one is competing with you for food. Old Man Fu shot him an exasperated glance. If I do not eat fast enough, you will finish everything yourself. Have you any idea how much you have eaten? Fu Wei, Guo scratched his nose sheepishly. I think I have had 5 bowls. Fu Qing, Li quietly set down her chopsticks. Uncle, grandfather, I am finished. Please take your time. Old Man Fu and Fu Wei, Guo also put down their bowls, looking slightly embarrassed. Why had their appetites grown so large lately? Fu Wei, Guo did not know that Fu Qing, Li had submerged his whole body in spiritual spring water and used her wood element ability to restore his health. His physical condition was now 10 times stronger than before. After dinner, Fu Qing, Li walked in the courtyard with her grandfather and uncle. Night fell and everyone returned to their rooms to rest. Once safely inside her bedroom with the doors and windows locked, Fu Qing, Li entered her spatial storage space. She packed a large sack of rice, along with vegetables including radishes, potatoes, green beans, cabbage, tomatoes, and cucumbers. She planned to quietly leave these supplies in the kitchen early the next morning. Night passed quickly. Fu Qing, Li exited her space at dawn, washed, and headed downstairs. The house was still quiet. She went to the kitchen and placed the sack of rice and vegetables on the floor. Just then, Fu Wei, Guo returned from his morning workout carrying steamed buns, soybean milk, and fried dough sticks. He spotted Fu Qing, Li coming out of the kitchen. Are you hungry, girl? Come and eat. I bought your favorite buns and fried dough. All right, Fu Qing, Li replied. Old Man Fu descended the stairs at that moment. You're up, Qing, Li, eat your breakfast, and then I will drive you to the train station. Okay, Fu Qing, Li answered. After breakfast, Old Man Fu sent her to the railway station by guard-driven car. He gave her repeated warnings as they stood on the platform. Stay careful on the train. Seek help from the conductors if anything happens. I understand, grandfather. Do not worry about me. Fu Wei, Guo pulled an envelope from his coat. Take this, my girl. Inside are national food stamps, cloth coupons, sugar coupons, plus vouchers for watches and bicycles. Buy whatever you want and do not hold back on spending. Fu Qing, Li pushed the thick envelope back gently. Uncle, I cannot accept this. I already have money and plenty of coupons. What is yours. This is a gift from me, so take it. Old Man Fu smiled warmly. Qing, Li, accept your uncle's gift. Seeing that she could not refuse, Fu Qing, Li nodded. Thank you, uncle. She tucked the envelope inside her clothes before secretly transferring it into her spatial storage. The train whistle blew. She waved to her family. Uncle, grandfather, I am boarding now. Please do not worry. Goodbye. She stepped onto the train. Old Man Fu and Fu Wei watched the train pull away before turning to head back to the compound. Once inside the house, Old Man Fu turned to his nephew. When will the official crackdown begin? Within the next 2 days. Every arrangement is complete. We await only the senior leader's order to arrest all suspects. Old Man Fu clenched his fist. Many corrupt wrongdoers will finally face justice. As they walked toward their study, their housekeeper Zhang Ma called out to them. Sir, we have fresh vegetables. What would you like prepared for lunch? Old Man Fu paused. What fresh vegetables? Zhang Ma held up chili peppers and radishes for him to see. They were left on the kitchen floor, along with a huge sack of rice. Old Man Fu and Fu Weigua hurried into the kitchen and saw the pile of vegetables and at least 50 jin of rice. They exchanged a glance. Old Man Fu told Zhang Ma, cook them however you wish. I will make beef stew with radish, stir-fried pork with chili, tomato and egg scramble, plus one more green vegetable dish. That will be fine, Old Man Fu said, then went upstairs to the study with Fu Weigua. Sitting at his desk, he spoke. Qingli must have gone to the black market early this morning to bring these supplies back. Yes, Fu Weigua agreed. I still cannot work out how she carried everything here. Meanwhile on the train, Fu Qingli located her private sleeper compartment and opened the door. 2 passengers were already inside. Both turned their heads at her entrance. The man's eyes widened for a split second in admiration before he quickly looked away, afraid of making her uncomfortable. The woman sighed in relief. I am glad someone else has arrived. It felt very awkward being alone in a compartment with just one man. Fu Qingli glanced at her bunk, settled herself, and lay down. Soft sleeper berths were wonderfully comfortable. The compartment door opened again. Fu Qingli lifted her gaze, then shot bolt upright in shock, staring at the new arrival in disbelief. Lu Yichuan looked at her surprised face, a faint smile playing across his lips. He suppressed his own excitement and sat down opposite her. Fu Qingli stared at him. Could it really be him? Had he also been transported into this world? Lu Yichuan spoke in a low voice. What is wrong? Do you no longer recognize me? How did you end up here? Fu Qingli asked. Lu Yichuan understood her question. She had not yet connected him to his present life identity. In their past life, he had lain unconscious during this period, and he had enlisted in the army at 16 while she had still been very young. It was reasonable that she had forgotten him. He planned to win her over slowly so he would not frighten her away. He lowered his voice further so only she could hear. What if I told you I sacrificed myself fighting to avenge you? Would you believe me? For me, you sacrificed yourself? Fu Qingli murmured. Yes. I fought a sea monster for 3 days and 3 nights before destroying it along with myself. I expected to die, yet I woke up in this time period. I was overjoyed to find you here. I knew no one in this new world, so you will have to look after me. You want me to take care of you? Exactly. Fu Qingli rolled her eyes. I never knew you had such a thick skin. Do not think you can cling to me just by claiming you avenged me. For all I know, your story could be completely made up. Lu Yichuan smiled warmly at her lively reaction. Everything would be different this lifetime. He would stay by her side and shield her from all harm. Back in the capital city hospital, Jiang Meihua slowly opened her eyes in confusion. When she saw her heavily bandaged husband Fu Weigua, all her memories rushed back. She clutched her chest in agony. No, my Yao. Fu Weigua woke abruptly from his sleep. Why are you screaming like that? You nearly gave me a heart attack. Jiang Meihua fixed him with bloodshot eyes. Fu Weigua flinched. What does that look for? Are you planning to attack me? Give me back my daughter. Jiang Meihua leapt out of bed and began scratching, biting, and hitting him. Wrapped in bandages, Fu Weigua could barely move freely. He roared toward the doorway. Is anyone out there? Somebody get in here. A soldier who had gone out to buy breakfast rushed into the room upon hearing the commotion and separated the fighting pair. Fresh scratch marks covered Fu Weigua's face. He shouted angrily, "You lunatic." He turned to the soldier. Go arrange my discharge papers. I cannot stay in the same room as this crazy woman. He ripped off all his bandages. This is ridiculous. I only let the doctor wrap me up to show father how harshly my brother beat me. Instead of gaining sympathy, I got attacked. How am I supposed to show my face in public now? He stormed away behind the soldier, leaving Jiang Meihua sobbing on the floor. Hospital staff hurried over when they heard her cries, yet none dared restrain her because of her social standing. Once she had cried herself out, Jiang Meihua stood, straightened her clothes, and left the hospital. She wound her way through narrow alleyways until she reached an old wooden door. She knocked 3 times softly. The door creaked open a crack. The man inside checked both sides of the empty lane, then pulled her into the courtyard. She was led to a dim room and waited for 15 minutes before a man with a dark expression walked in. I told you not to come here unless there is an emergency. Ignoring his angry tone, Jiang Meihua spoke venomously. Why? Do you think your new identity makes you better than everyone else? Feng Tao's eyes flashed with menace. What exactly do you want? Kill Fu Qingli, that hateful girl, by any means possible. Feng Tao frowned. Do you understand who she is? Killing her would bring huge trouble. I do not care. You must kill her, or I will expose your secret identity. Murderous intent flickered in Feng Tao's eyes. Jiang Meihua laughed coldly. Are you thinking of killing me? Think carefully. If I die, your hidden identity will be revealed instantly. Feng Tao was alarmed to realize she held such leverage over him. He suppressed his hostility and adopted a coaxing tone. What has happened to make you want her dead so badly? She killed our daughter Yao. Feng Tao stared in shock. What did you say? Jiang Meihua repeated each word slowly. She killed Yao. Your daughter. That cannot be right. The powerful figure changed her fate. How could she die? Besides, Yao was supposed to stay in the capital. Jiang Meihua closed her eyes. She traveled to the far northeast province to find Fu Qingli, and Fu Qingli killed her. How do you know Fu Qingli harmed her? Fu Qingli told me herself. Feng Tao relaxed slightly. I suspect she lied to upset you. No murderer would openly admit their crime. But Yao has vanished. Rest assured. Yao has likely hidden herself after sensing danger, or Fu Qingli is holding her captive. That young woman would never dare commit murder. Jiang Meihua felt a little calmer. Truly? Truly. Fu Qingli probably guessed our secret and tried to drive you into despair. Return home now. I will send men to search for Yao and eliminate Fu Qingli. Jiang Meihua finally breathed easier. Of course, Fu Qingli must have lied to torment her. Yao was clever and could not possibly be dead. Very well, I will leave. Please find Yao quickly. I cannot stop worrying. I will, Feng Tao promised. Jiang Meihua slipped away from the hidden courtyard. Once she was gone, Feng Tao's expression darkened. He walked to his study, glanced around to ensure no one watched, then twisted a porcelain vase. A hidden tunnel opened in the floor. Carrying an oil lamp, Feng Tao walked 10 minutes underground until he reached another courtyard. He climbed out from an old well, adjusted his clothing, and knocked on a door. A cold, androgynous voice drifted out. Enter. Feng Tao shuddered at the sound, then pushed the door open. A figure sat inside wearing a wide black robe and a loopholed straw hat that completely concealed their face. Feng Tao bowed deeply. Master. The robed figure spoke. You have not visited me in 10 years. What urgent business brings you here today? Wiping sweat from his forehead, Feng Tao answered, Yao has disappeared. The master sounded displeased. You disturb me for something so trivial? She traveled to the far northeast region. The master roared in shock. What? Feng Tao trembled. She went to Heilongjiang. Fool, the master shouted angrily. Did I not warn you she must never leave the capital? The robed figure's fingers moved rapidly, casting a divination spell. Then a cry of disbelief escaped their lips. Dead? Truly dead? How could this happen? Not only has the Fu family's fortune begun to recover, but people who were supposed to die have returned. Even another person's destiny is being restored. That foolish woman ruined all my plans. I spent 10 years draining the Fu family's luck, and now all my work has been wasted. Feng Tao felt dizzy. If Jiang Meihua's words were true, Yao was really dead. The master looked coldly at the stunned man. Your daughter was always fated to die young. Her difficult destiny has simply run its natural course. Your pleas are useless. You have wasted 10 years of my energy. Get out. Feng Tao dropped to his knees. Master, you have great power. Surely you can save her. I beg you. There is nothing left to save. Not even her bones remain. Feng Tao stared blankly. No bones, what does that mean? Leave, the master ordered sharply. Feng Tao stumbled outside in a daze. Why had this tragedy occurred? Memories of his young daughter clinging to his leg and calling him father stabbed at his heart. He blamed Fu Aigua. Years ago, Fu Aigua had slept with his wife. Feng Tao had always suspected the child might belong to Fu Aigua until he spotted a plum blossom-shaped birthmark on the baby's arm, identical to one his own mother had carried. Convinced Yao was his biological daughter, he had arranged for Jiang Meihua to save Fu Aigua from danger. Later, he secretly caused Jiang Meihua to lose her ability to bear more children. Grateful for her rescue, Fu Aigua had married her and showered Yao with affection. With the master's help, Feng Tao had assumed a completely new identity. Everything had seemed perfect until Yao's sudden death. He could not directly strike against the powerful Fu family, yet he could target Fu Qingli. He would send assassins to kill her and inflict deep pain upon the Fu household. Filled with vengeful determination, he began making arrangements. Meanwhile, Fu Qingli and Lu Yichuan stepped off the train and walked toward a long-distance passenger bus. She frowned when he kept following close behind her. "Why are you still tagging along with me?" Lu Yichuan scratched his nose. "I am not following you. I am a new educated youth assigned to Back Hill Village under Hongqi Commune." Fu Qingli stared at him. "Do you hear how ridiculous that sounds?" 2 days of traveling together had allowed her to recall his real-world identity, a famous young man from her grandfather's social circle, the youngest son of Elder Lu, one of her grandfather's oldest friends. Childhood memories flashed back of her chasing him around begging for candy. She refused to think of him as an honorary elder whom she ought to address as little uncle. Lu Yichuan was amused she had worked out who he was. Age gaps and formal titles meant nothing to him. He intended to win her heart within his 6-month leave before returning to the city. If her grandfather objected, his own father could go and persuade their old friend. Back in the capital, Elder Lu suddenly sneezed violently. A cold shiver ran down his spine. "I feel as though someone is plotting against me," he muttered. His attendant quickly placed a warm blanket over his shoulders. On the bus bound for the county seat, 2 empty seats happened to be next to each other, and Fu Qingli and Lu Yichuan sat side by side. Lu Yichuan smiled happily to himself. Fu Qingli watched him grin and felt confused. "What are you smiling about?" He instantly composed his features and sat up straight. An older woman sitting opposite teased them. "Oh, the young couple are having a little quarrel." Fu Qingli hurried to correct her. "Ma'am, you misunderstand. We are not married." Lu Yichuan looked at her with an injured expression and said softly, "Liar." Fu Qingli's face darkened. "Be quiet." He fell silent, looking like a wronged spouse. The other passengers laughed, and one man joked, "Young man, you cannot let your wife order you around." Lu Yichuan smiled. "I only want Liar to be happy." Fu Qingli gave up trying to explain, realizing further denial would only make things worse. Once the bus reached the county town, she quickly stepped down and headed for the state-run restaurant to eat. Lu Yichuan still followed her. She took a deep breath. "Why will you not leave me alone? I have no idea how to find Back Hill Village in this unfamiliar place, so I must rely on you, Liar." "Stop calling me that," she warned, glancing nervously around. "Address me as Comrade Fu or Educated Youth Fu, and keep your distance." "Why did you not correct those passengers back on the bus?" Lu Yichuan ignored her request for distance. "I never said we were married." Their misunderstanding arose on its own, and arguing would only draw more attention. "Calling you Comrade Fu makes us sound like strangers. How about I call you Ollie or Qingli?" She agreed on condition he avoided the childhood nickname. "Very well, Ollie." Inside the state-owned restaurant, Lu Yichuan went to the counter and ordered braised pork, fried hairtail fish, sweet and sour pork, seaweed dandig soup, and 2 bowls of rice. Fu Qingli raised an eyebrow when she noticed all the dishes were her favorites. After finishing their meal, Fu Qingli led Lu Yichuan all the way to Back Hill Village. The village chief was surprised to see her return accompanied by a stranger. Lu Yichuan shook hands with him. "Hello. I am the newly arrived educated youth." "I received no advance notice," the village chief replied. After reading Lu Yichuan's official introduction letter, he understood the young man had permission to rest and set his own schedule after sustaining serious injuries. He was clearly not an ordinary labor-bound educated youth. Noticing Lu Yichuan's obvious fondness for Fu Qingli, the village chief guessed he had come to the countryside to court her. He returned the paperwork and explained the layout of the educated youth compound. Lu Yichuan rented the vacant room closest to Fu Qingli's lodging. The village chief's thoughts drifted to the missing Fu Qingyao, whose whereabouts remained unknown. Fu Qingli showed Lu Yichuan to the compound. It was midday and the other educated youths were inside. They stared curiously as she walked in with an unknown young man. She ignored them and headed straight for the backyard. Lu Yichuan observed the cool reception she received, realized her poor relations with the group, and followed her without acknowledging the others. As soon as they left, the other youths began whispering. "Who is that man with Comrade Fu?" 2 girls named Su Hui and Gaonana blushed, impressed by his handsome appearance. Bitingting, who was preparing for her upcoming arranged marriage to a local troublemaker, stepped out of her room. Her heart raced the moment she saw Lu Yichuan's retreating back. Overwhelmed with resentment toward Fu Qingli, she silently swore revenge. In the backyard, Fu Qingli unlocked her door. Lu Yichuan hurried forward. "Ollie, which room is mine?" She pointed to the next door room. "That one." He opened the door and found the room completely empty of furniture. He returned to her side. "There is nothing inside." "Then go buy supplies," Fu Qingli replied. "All right. I will head to the commune," he said, watching her reaction. Seeing no objection, he left the compound. At the supply and marketing cooperative, he purchased furniture, kitchenware, and his monthly grain ration. Two of his hidden bodyguards, Eagle and Black Bear, secretly watched him carry his large pile of purchases back toward the village.